Chapter 36-47. Innate Primordial Water? Ouyang Jingran was shocked. She hurriedly moved her eyes away from the primordial water. At the moment when she was absent-minded, Bodhi actually put away the primordial water bottle and formed a seal with both hands at the same time. Boom! As if a boulder was pressing down on her, Bodhi's seal pressed down on Ouyang Jingran. Ah! Feeling this seal that was faster than a meteor and had the power to destroy the stars, Ouyang Jingran's face turned ashen. She also suddenly woke up. The reason why the monk in her mouth stayed in this star array was to practice this seal. Ouyang Jingran hurriedly retreated. Her huge body did not seem clumsy at all. Unfortunately, no matter how fast she flew, could she be faster than a meteor? Bodhi was used to using the seal to destroy stars. The power of the seal followed Ouyang Jingran's movements and fell down. Boom! Taisher Zhanran's plan of dragging the blade naturally succeeded. The azure dragon saber easily blocked the wishful staff, and the wooden vines even tied up Xiao Hua's legs. But at the same time, just as Taisher Zhanran was secretly happy and flew away like Ouyang Jingran, a huge gust of wind came, like a star pressing down on them. It was no different from the falling stars in the falling stone star array. Taisher Zhanran was guarding the falling stone star array. How could he not be familiar with the situation inside? He looked around in surprise. When he felt the power of Xiao Hua's divine sense that was even greater than the stars, his face suddenly turned ashen. A kind of epiphany was born in his heart. The cultivator in front of him was not only tempering his body in the star array, but also refining his divine sense. At this time, he was not allowed to think more. He hurriedly wanted to urge the flying technique. The azure dragon saber in his hand waved again, and the three-colored true chi above his head spurted out again. Boom! Boom! Two loud noises resonated together. All of Taisher Zhanran's methods of resistance turned into nothingness in front of the most primitive force. When the divine will hammer fell, the 100-meter-tall child body collapsed with a loud bang. The righteous chi wailed and scattered in all directions. Ouyang Jingran was equally miserable. The mountain was mixed with karma and smashed her back to her original form. However, just as the armor on the two collapsed, a faint light flashed. Indescribable fluctuations appeared in the void, barely supporting the enormous force. Moreover, after the fluctuations, a powerful suction force appeared. Obviously, it was trying to drag the two people under the armor out of the interlayer of the star array. Oh no! When Xiao Hua saw this, he cried out in his heart. First, he concealed his methods to avoid being noticed. Finally, he killed the two at the same time, afraid that one of the two star venerates would escape. But now, it seemed that he had underestimated the methods of Yaotai Mountain. Before the two of them died, they were actually able to mobilize the power of the entire Yaotai Mountain's defensive array. Where is the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua? Xiao Hua roared, but Taisher Zhanran and Ouyang Jingran were surprised to see true chi rushing out of his body. Then, the wishful staff in his hand suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a python spear. Roar! Under the urging of true energy, the python spear left his hand and turned into a giant python, stabbing towards Taisher Zhanran's chest. Jing Mushuan was killed by you. Seeing the familiar python spear, the hope that had just been born in their hearts immediately disappeared. Taisher Zhanran and Ouyang Jingran almost cried out in unison before they died. With this sound, the python spear pierced Taisher Zhanran's armor. Gotcha! The armor was penetrated. Poof! Taisher Zhanran's body was penetrated. Gotcha! Ouyang Jingran's peach-red armor was also penetrated. Poof! Ouyang Jingran's chest was nailed by a python spear. Whoosh! True chi spurted out from the top of the two people's heads. The two primordial spirit phantoms escaped from their bodies. Unfortunately, before they could leave, Xiao Hua, who was waiting by the side, had already pulled out his hand. The sword gourd flew out of his hand. The soul-slaying Yuan light rushed out and immediately covered the two primordial spirits. They did not have any chance to struggle and were instantly killed. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Bodhi flew closer. After chanting the Buddhist name, he chanted the Lin word. When the word fell on the two primordial spirits revealed their human forms. Moreover, their hazy faces were filled with panic. After all, at this time, Xiao Hua not only controlled their life and death, but also decided their reincarnation. Bodhi raised his hand. 2 strands of Buddhist light appeared from his fingertips and fell between the eyebrows of the 2 primordial spirits. The 2 primordial spirits' faces were filled with pain and their entire primordial spirits rapidly faded. Fortunately, it was only half a cup of tea's time. Bodhi retracted his hand and chanted the Buddhist name, Namo Maitreya Buddha. By this sovereign's order, re-enter reincarnation, Jia. Under the incantation, the 2 primordial spirits suddenly woke up. They hurriedly bowed and saluted, then disappeared in a moment. When the 2 primordial spirits died, the suction force in the space immediately disappeared. While Bodhi was converting the 2 primordial spirits and searching their souls, Xiao Hua took the 2 primordial spirits' corpses, scrolls, and weapons. As for the white tiger, how could it be a match for the divine power centipede? Before Ouyang Jingran could warn it, the divine power centipede had already killed it. Now the divine power centipede had drilled into the white tiger's brain and sucked its brain. Seeing Bodhi send the 2 primordial spirits away, Xiao Hua's mind was filled with everything Bodhi knew. He looked at the space again. Although there were traces of a struggle, there were no special flaws. Xiao Hua faintly smiled. His hands formed seals again. Dozens of seals flew out and landed in different parts of the space. Although these seals couldn't completely eliminate his aura, for a short time, cultivators weaker than him would have a hard time finding any clues. After doing all this, Xiao Hua smiled and said, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua, take a look. If you and I didn't work together, how could things have been done so perfectly? That's why there are benefits if we work together and disadvantages if we don't work together. Don't separate Bodhi and the others because of some differences in cultivation. Our situations are different and can't be separated. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Excellent, excellent. Bodhi descended and put his palms together. This poor monk hasn't come out for a long time. As soon as I come out, I'll harm someone's life. This is really inappropriate. If fellow immortal doesn't harm others, others will harm you. What's fellow immortal's choice? Xiao Hua was in a very good mood. He asked with a smile. Haven't you heard of the story of Buddha sacrificing himself to feed an eagle? Bodhi raised his eyebrows and replied with a smile that wasn't a smile. Xiao Hua firmly shook his head. The 2 can't be mentioned in the same breath. Moreover, if fellow immortal doesn't harm others, green-robed Xiao Hua will lose his life. You and I will also lose our lives. The Buddhist scriptures talk about saving people, but you can't throw yourself in, right? You're still wrong. Bodhi wanted to say something again, but Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, Fellow immortal doesn't need to say anything. When it comes to the truth of Buddhism, I'm definitely not your opponent. If you're willing, I'll ask Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua to come and debate with you one day. I only know that saving people is as important as oneself. Right now, the most important thing for you and me is to save green-robed Xiao Hua. While speaking, Xiao Hua's body began to tighten again. The power of the star formation that was previously imprisoned by the 2 celestial monarchs began to recover. Xiao Hua knew that in a moment, he would enter another star formation. However, Xiao Hua wasn't nervous. He raised his hand and Taisher Zhanran's armor appeared in his hand. Xiao Hua casually put it on and the pressure immediately disappeared. According to the memories of the 2 celestial monarchs, the defensive formation of Yaotai Mountain should have been rearranged by the people sent by the Immortal Palace. The so-called Scorching Sun, Bright Moon, and Crimson Star formations are all fierce formations used by the Immortal Palace. This time, they were specially used to kill our Taoist cultivators. Moreover, they speculated that the number of Taoist cultivators who could walk out of the Yaotai Mountain gathering this time could be counted on one hand. Even the Celestial Monarch Hall has already drafted an edict stating that the treasures in this Yaotai Mountain gathering were too rare and our Taoist cultivators killed each other too fiercely, resulting in such a great loss. Xiao Hua flew towards the interlayer of the star array. He put on his armor and held the Azure Dragon Saber in his hand. At the same time, he used a transfiguration technique to transform himself into Taisher Zhanran's appearance. This Kong Hongwu's ruthlessness. It's obvious. Alas, but these celestial monarchs seem to be pitiful. They all offended the influential figures in the Immortal Palace and were sent here to admit their crimes. This is said to be a good opportunity for them to perform meritorious deeds. Unfortunately, 3 of them were killed by this Xiao. This Kong Hongwu should be furious again. However, these 2 celestial monarchs' memories of the Immortal Palace have been erased. Even if this Xiao wants to know the whereabouts of the Immortal Palace, this Xiao can't. Xiao Hua flew for a moment and arrived at the bottom of the interlayer. He took out the Celestial Monarch token and sprayed a mouthful of true qi on it. The Celestial Monarch token rushed out a three-colored brilliance and fell on the clouds at the bottom. Shwa! At the place where the brilliance came from, a hole several feet in size appeared. Xiao Hua used the clear eyes technique to take a look and fell into it. Looking at the somewhat unfamiliar star formation, Xiao Hua urged his figure to descend. A faint fluctuation appeared on the armor on his body, slowly spreading in all directions, but it didn't trigger the restriction of the star formation. Now that the Great Crimson Star Formation has been broken, Brother Daoran has obtained a unique treasure. It seems that this unique treasure should be the Cold Ghost Gallbladder. Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong have now attacked the Bright Moon Formation. No matter what is inside the Bright Moon Formation, presumably with the joint forces of two late nascent soul stage cultivators, they should be able to succeed. However, this Kong Hongwu unexpectedly wants to take drastic measures and kill all the cultivators in the Scorching Sun Formation. This is troublesome. Xiao Hua passed through several star formations and several interlayers before finally escaping from the Sun, Moon, and Star Formations and landing on the Yaotai Mountain. At this time, the Yaotai Mountain was still covered by pure white clouds and couldn't be seen clearly. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and looked around before flying in a certain direction. He thought to himself, apart from the Sun, Moon and Star Formations, the earliest formation that the people of the Immortal Palace set up was the Great Formation under the Yaotai Mountain. This Great Formation took several years to set up. Moreover, when the formation was set up, all the people of the Celestial Monarch Hall, except for Kong Hongwu, couldn't get close, not even the 28 Celestial Monarchs. The people of the Immortal Palace even killed a few celestial generals who mistakenly entered. According to what Ouyang Jingran knows, when the formation was set up, it triggered a celestial phenomenon. Countless purple clouds fell to the west and thousands of mighty chi pillars roared. It seemed to be extremely powerful. This is troublesome. Chapter 3648. This formation is so important. The Sun, Moon, and Star formations that killed nascent soul cultivators were only rearranged after this. That blood-colored meteor is the formation's catalyst, and the star mark in the sky is the entrance to the star formation. When the 28 star monarchs were familiar with these star formations, they were also forbidden to touch the formation under the Yaotai Mountain. However, according to Taisher Zhanran's thoughts, that formation shouldn't have much to do with the Sun, Moon, and Star formations. Of course, the reason why I was able to kill these two star monarchs and get the news about Green Robe Xiao Hua was also related to my perception in the Falling Stone formation that day. Since I had perception at that time, I should be able to find that formation now. And, if it's really as these two star monarchs thought, then the formation under the Yaotai Mountain is the foundation of this Yaotai conference. The nascent soul that was sucked away by the huge gravity is the reason why the Immortal Palace killed nascent soul cultivators. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua suddenly thought of Xian Songzi. There's also the king of the capital Qin state, Xian Yan Ming. Damn it, are these two related? Immediately, Xiao Hua stopped in midair with a bitter face. Yes, killing the king of the capital Qin state had already offended the Immortal Palace's immortal envoy. Now that he was prying into the formation of the Yaotai Mountain, he had offended the Immortal Palace's immortal envoy even more. He hadn't even gained a firm foothold in the hidden immortal continent, yet he was already going against the Immortal Palace. Wasn't this courting death? Xiao Hua desperately cultivated in the star formation. Admittedly, he had made great progress. His current strength should be able to reach the middle of the 5th grade of origin energy. However, from the memories of the two monarchs, he knew that the Star Monarch Hall's master, Kong Hongwu, was a great grandmaster who had refined his spirit back to the void. He was only one step away from stepping into the realm of literary sage, which was the upper of the 5th grade of origin energy. Admittedly, he could kill 3 star monarchs, but he had no chance of winning against Kong Hongwu. Moreover, on the Yaotai Mountain, Kong Hongwu had the geographical advantage and could use the power of the Yaotai Mountain. He simply didn't have any power to fight back. If he couldn't even fight against a small official from the Immortal Palace in the hidden immortal continent, how could he fight against the Immortal Palace? If time could turn back now, Xiao Hua would rather choose not to let the green robe Xiao Hua take the risk, and Xiao Hua would rather listen to Li Xiang and not participate in the Jade Pavilion gathering. Unfortunately, even with Xiao Hua's ability, He could only look at the ocean and sigh. Jing Mushuan was killed by him as soon as he entered the formation. Now, he even killed Tail Fire Tiger and Sun Horse of Star. Star-Lord Hall had a total of 28 Star-Lords, and 3 of them were killed by him. Even if he wanted to withdraw now, it was already too late. What's more, he still had a primordial spirit trapped in the formation, and he still had a promise to fulfill. Xiao Hua only stopped in midair for a moment before a sneer appeared on his face. Damn it, back then on Xiaoyu continent, I was only an aura refining and foundation building low-level cultivator. I wasn't afraid of that kind of big wind and big waves. Now that I've cultivated to the 5th grade of essence energy, and also possess a secret art unknown to others, what does this Xiao have to be afraid of? In the end, even if I don't establish my own country, so what if I wander the world? I don't believe in the immortal palace. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua didn't dare to think too much. Even a small Wu Tian had the opportunity to comprehend the art of divination. The noble spirit condensed into clouds of various colors that danced in the surroundings. Who are you? How dare you trespass into the forbidden area? The giant water figure opened its mouth, and a strange voice came out. Xiao Hua didn't dare to release his divine sense, and his eyes swept over, and his mind turned quickly. This giant water figure actually didn't know what Sun Horse of Star looked like, so it probably wasn't from Star-Lord Hall. It was most likely a primordial spirit imprint left here by the person who set up the formation. Thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua smiled and said, I am Star-Lord Hall's Sun Horse of Star-Lord Taisher Zhanran, and I came to explore the forbidden area under the order of my Hall Master. Now, among the Sun, Moon and Star formation, the Crimson Star formation has been broken. Just as Xiao Hua was answering, boom! A huge tremor came from the distant horizon, and then a golden brilliance splashed from the distance. Xiao Hua was delighted, and hurriedly said, Look, even the bright moon formation was broken by the Taoist cultivators. Therefore, Lord Hallmaster was worried, and was afraid that this place would be lost, so he specially sent me to inspect it. When the giant water figure saw the golden brilliance burning the clouds above Yaotai Mountain, it knew that what Xiao Hua said was true. It also pondered for a moment and nodded. Very good, give me the token. Token? Xiao Hua was of course stunned, but he naturally waved his hand and handed over the star tablet of Sun Horse of Star. Who would have thought that the giant water figure didn't even look at it, and just waved its hand and said coldly, Why would I look at your star tablet? Since it was Kong Hongwu who asked you to come here. He naturally asked you to bring the token, otherwise how could I let you in? The giant water figure was suspicious, but it didn't say what the token was. Instead, its whole body flashed with blue light, and the runes that were flowing cheerfully just a moment ago suddenly stopped. The clouds also instantly turned into a threatening state, ready to pounce on Xiao Hua at any time. Xiao Hua stared at the giant water figure, and thought about it in his mind. The cultivation level of this giant's body might have reached the upper 5th grade of elemental energy, or even the 6th grade. However, a 6th grade of elemental energy might not necessarily come to Yaotai Mountain in person to set up a formation, so was most likely a 5th grade of elemental energy great grandmaster. Xiao Hua knew that he didn't have the confidence to deal with this kind of upper 5th grade of elemental energy Confucian cultivator, but with a trace of their primordial spirit imprint, Xiao Hua still had the confidence to kill it in one blow. However, Xiao Hua had to have absolute confidence that he couldn't let this giant water figure have the slightest bit of resistance. While thinking, Xiao Hua was about to activate his divine will hammer. Right at this moment, Xiao Hua suddenly thought of something while looking at the pillar of Haoren Qi that suddenly rose up. Smiling, he put his hand into his bosom and very calmly took out the immortal palace order he got from the king of Qin state. He lifted it up easily and looked at the giant waterman. He said with a smile, Since Hallmaster Darren sent me here, you naturally have a keepsake. Actually, if it wasn't for the fact that the Scorching Sun Great Formation is currently in a critical situation, Lord Hallmaster would have personally come here. Why would he send me here? The giant water figure stretched out its big hand, and was about to grab the immortal palace order. Xiao Hua hastily raised his hand, and said while shaking his head, Sorry, you can only look at this thing. It's enough if you can verify it. Lord Hallmaster didn't order me to hand this thing over to someone else. After saying that, Xiao Hua opened his mouth, and a mouthful of true qi fell on the immortal palace command token. With a loud bang, the cloud began to expand as if it was filled with air. Strings of jade flew out from the expanding cloud, and a celestial music began to spread out from the cloud. Layers upon layers of palace phantoms also began to emerge from the cloud. Seeing Xiao Hua spit out true energy, and at the same time having a genuine immortal palace order, that giant water figure slightly nodded and said, "Go, just carefully examine it. Don't touch the great formation." "Yes, I understand." Xiao Hua breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that his guess was correct. But the boom sound of water was heard incessantly, as if a waterfall was falling from a deep pool. Xiao Hua cupped his fists and respectfully sent off the giant water figure, which lost its human form, and huge waves of water fell into the deep pool. Then, Xiao Hua didn't hesitate, and using the flight technique, he landed halfway up the opposite mountain. Halfway up the mountain, there was a square platform of 1 foot in size. It was as smooth as a mirror, and he couldn't see any trace of inscription. Only when Xiao Hua flew closer, that platform gave birth to a faint rosy cloud. This rosy cloud was also golden in color at this time. Then, the entire rosy cloud began to steam above the platform, just like a small cloud bed. When he saw this cloud bed, Xiao Hua was slightly startled, but in an instant, he had some understanding. He hastily placed the immortal palace order in his hand on it. Sure enough, without waiting for Xiao Hua to urge his true energy, the rosy cloud above the cloud bed became just like the immortal palace order. Traces of immortal music were born, and that phantom image of the immortal palace was born again. This time it was somewhat different. The phantom image of the immortal palace was directly projected on the mountain wall. Then, the mountain wall emitted an awe-inspiring chi, and the gate of the immortal palace in the phantom image slowly opened. Behind the gate, a deep star path unexpectedly appeared on the stone wall. Oh! Seeing this, Xiao Hua was overjoyed, because when the star path appeared, he had already sensed the existence of green-robed Xiao Hua, and also vaguely sensed green-robed Xiao Hua's feelings of despair, helplessness, and joy. Xiao Hua knew that the primordial spirit of a genuine immortal general of the immortal palace was probing inside the deep pool behind him. So he didn't dare to hesitate in front of the gate, and even more didn't dare to relax. He spread out his divine sense, restrained his mood, and stepped into the star path. As he entered, that phantom image of the immortal palace slowly disappeared, and once again transformed into the appearance of the immortal palace order and fell into Xiao Hua's hand. When Xiao Hua entered the stone wall, that stone wall's star path quickly disappeared, and a pair of eyes under the deep pool slowly closed. Chapter 3649. However, the moment the stone wall closed, a very subtle fluctuation appeared from a place about 10 feet away from the platform. This fluctuation quickly disappeared into the void. The fluctuation crossed the void and appeared next to a giant star with monstrous waves of fire. The giant star was huge and extremely hot. It emitted an intense golden brilliance, and an uncountable amount of awe-inspiring chi flowed around the giant star, emitting a faint rumbling sound. This rumbling sound was like the sound of pines or the sound of flowing water. It was soft but mighty. Not far away from the giant star, layers of clouds covered the sky and covered the earth. The clouds were dyed by the golden brilliance and looked extremely gorgeous. The clouds were close to the center of the island. Pieces of floating clouds were pulled away by the awe-inspiring chi. They were like tassels that were pulled away from the clouds and spiraled into the airflow, disappearing in a moment. At this time, the clouds suddenly rolled and a figure rushed out from the clouds. It was the gloomy Kong Hongwu. At this time, Kong Hongwu was no longer dressed like a scholar. Instead, he was wearing a somewhat strange star armor. This star armor was made up of large and small pieces of armor. Each piece of armor was strung together by a thin chain. There seemed to be some gaps between the pieces of armor, but these gaps were filled with inscriptions. The inscriptions were born from the pieces of armor, entangled in the gaps, and then rushed into the other pieces of armor. In addition to the faint inscriptions on each piece of armor, there were also dots of starlight and faint star patterns. As soon as Kong Hongwu came out of the clouds, he immediately stood in the air. Thick clouds grew beneath his feet. His eyes flashed with a clear light as he looked at the giant star overflowing with brilliance. For a long time, he didn't say a word. The golden light not only dyed his armor golden yellow, even his eyes were flowing with golden light. Damn it! Kong Hongwu's face suddenly became angry. Wada, that brat deserves to die. This old man gave you a chance to redeem yourself, but you didn't kill that Xiao Hua. Instead, you dared to rush into the scorching sun formation with the Taoist cultivators. This old man also didn't expect that after your fire gourd was taken away by Xiao Hua, you still had a secret technique. If it weren't for you, how could there be so few casualties in the scorching sun formation? Pleiades chicken. Kong Hongwu roared. The clouds behind him churned and another woman flew out. This woman was wearing 5-colored armor. She had a charming face and a graceful figure. Her hair was coiled up and there was a 5-colored feather in her hair. She looked indifferent as she coldly glanced at Kong Hongwu. As if she didn't care, she said in a low voice, "Greetings, Palace Master. What orders do you have for me?" "You." Just as Kong Hongwu was about to give the order, his eyes suddenly widened and his face was filled with extreme disbelief. Shortly after, Kong Hongwu growled, "Not good." After that, he completely ignored Gusu Churon. A tricolored cloud flashed around his body, and countless awe-inspiring qi rushed into his body from the void. His entire body shook a few times and immediately disappeared. Gusu Churon was so surprised that she actually reached out to cover her mouth. Looking at the place where Kong Hongwu disappeared, she didn't know what to do. However, in just a moment, Gusu Churon's face showed calmness and indifference again. Her eyes were also flowing with extraordinary splendor. Looking at the situation inside the scorching sun, a faint smile appeared on her lips. Fortunately. Her voice was very low, like a mosquito flapping its wings. As for the meaning of these 2 words, only she knew. Then, Gusu Churon's body slowly descended and disappeared into the clouds. Suddenly, the cry for help from the green-robed Xiao Hua became louder. Xiao Hua did not dare to be negligent and quickened his pace. After walking a dozen more steps, the scene in front of him suddenly opened up. When he looked up, he was unconsciously shocked by the scene in front of him. What a splendid sight it was! A huge whirlpool was floating in the air. Just from the shape of the whirlpool, it looked like a snail's shell. It was arranged in layers, decreasing from the middle to the outer layer. Each layer was slowly rotating, and the angle and speed of each layer were different. The color emitted by each layer was also different. Moreover, the brilliance emitted by each layer was like fireworks, gradually moving further and further away. Where the brilliance disappeared, there was an obscure fluctuation. Along with this fluctuation, a vast and mighty aura surged from the void and fell into the whirlpool. The grand aura was like the sea and the grand aura was like the ocean. It passed through the whirlpool and set off waves. The bursts of resentment that were like the sound of a wheel were emitted by this seemingly endless flow of grand aura. This whirlpool was extremely large. When Xiao Hua looked at it, a sense of inferiority involuntarily emerged from the bottom of his heart. It was as if no matter how high he was, no matter how deep his cultivation was, he was still an ant in front of this whirlpool. What was special was that as the whirlpool rotated, a strong and desolate aura filled the entire space, bringing with it a desolate, ancient, and unyielding aura. If one looked carefully at the whirlpool, they would see specks of starlight. These specks of starlight rotated along with the whirlpool, drifting within the grand aura. Each speck of starlight rolled up a huge wave of air, and the entire whirlpool rose and fell like waves. It was like a movement, playing an ancient song in this desolate aura. Looking at the colorful splendor and the shocking whirlpool, Xiao Hua was stunned. This kind of scene was something that many ordinary cultivators could see, and it was not something that an ordinary Confucian cultivator could set up. Although he had seen a rare vision in the Kai clan's ancestral temple in the Million Meng Mountains, that vision could not be compared to this. It was a bit less magnificent, a bit less imposing, and a bit less mysterious. Suddenly, as if there was a gust of wind, a layer of magnificent splendor was lifted. As the splendor rippled, one could see that within the huge whirlpool, there were actually huge and dense phantoms that were rotating along with the whirlpool. These phantoms were thousands of feet in size, and they were suffused with different kinds of light. Each phantom was in the shape of an infant. They were either sitting cross-legged, standing with rapt attention, forming hand seals with both hands, or placing magic treasures on their knees. However, each infant phantoms had their eyes closed, and their expressions were serene. Hiss! Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He understood in his heart that these nascent souls were most likely the ones that went missing in the Yaotai Mountains Grand Formation, the Sun, Moon, and Star formations. The Immortal Palace set up this mysterious grand formation with the purpose of collecting the nascent souls of these nascent soul cultivators. Xiaohua looked around and immediately saw where he sensed it. A similarly huge nascent soul phantoms were sitting cross-legged. What was different from the others was that this nascent soul's eyes were wide open, and within those eyes, there was a flicker of anxiety. The nascent soul's body flickered with a faint flame. The flame was very weak, and it was like a piece of clothing stuck to the nascent soul's body. Within the whirlpool, the myriad of starlight was like a giant flow of grand aura, constantly washing away this thin flame. Green-robed Xiaohua. Xiaohua was very anxious. At the same time, green-robed Xiaohua also sensed Xiaohua's arrival. While looking at Xiaohua, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of true energy onto his knees. At this moment, green-robed Xiaohua placed a bronze mirror on his knees. As his true energy fell, the bronze mirror emitted a six-colored brilliance that covered the huge body of the green-robed nascent soul. Immediately, green-robed Xiaohua opened his mouth, and the surrounding flame entered his mouth. The six-colored brilliance blocked the attack of the grand aura and starlight. Then, green-robed Xiaohua used all his strength to point below him, as if he was reminding Xiaohua of something. Following the direction of green-robed Xiaohua's finger, Xiaohua looked at the bottom of the whirlpool, only to see that there was actually a huge tail at the bottom of the whirlpool. Myriad of starlight, rays of light, and a vast and mighty sea of qi surrounded an extremely long nascent soul phantom that fell into a huge black spot. This is... Xiaohua's eyes widened. At this moment, he could clearly see that the place where everything fell was shockingly a fist-sized lamp. Demon refining gourd. Xiaohua cried out in surprise. In his memories, as well as Taisha Zhanran and Ouyang Jingran's memories, they all had the appearance of this item. Moreover, the name was also exactly the same. Immortal Palace's Demon Refining Gourd. It actually appeared here. Xiaohua raised his eyes to look at the incomparably huge whirlpool, then lowered his head to look at the fist-sized demon refining gourd. An indescribable feeling of incredulity arose spontaneously in his heart. Chapter 3650. Xiaohua thought for a long time, wondering what kind of formation was under Yaotai Mountain. Was it a Confucian formation or a Taoist formation? But he never thought that the demon refining pot would appear here. The ferocious atmosphere in front of him, the hundreds of nascent soul cultivators, the vast amount of qi seemed to be unable to escape the suction of the demon refining pot. Are you shocked? A faint voice came from the top of Xiaohua's head. That voice was very fleeting. Xiaohua was startled and cursed inwardly. He raised his head and saw Kong Hongwu standing on a star passage with a gloomy expression, clad in star armor. Although Kong Hongwu's face was not very good, the previous anxiety had disappeared and was replaced by a kind of confidence. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and glanced at the vortex. He saw that the green-robed Xiaohua had closed his eyes. The six-colored brilliance on the refined ice deadly mirror had also become very faint. If one did not look carefully, it was no different from other nascent soul cultivators. Yes, this general has never seen such a shocking scene. Xiaohua said with a smile. If it were not for the people of the Immortal Palace setting up the formation here, this general would not have this opportunity. He at this time. Taisha Zhanran, you still dare to call yourself this general? Kong Hongwu sneered. You still have the face to stand in front of this old man? Why not? Xiaohua's azure dragon saber rotated slightly. The saber light overflowed as he replied faintly. Kong Hongwu looked at the azure dragon saber and then looked at Xiaohua's face. He said meaningfully, when this old man asked you to join Starlord Hall, I already told you that since you have joined Starlord Hall, what you did in the Immortal Palace before is nothing. What Pure Palace, what Langfeng Summit, it has nothing to do with my Starlord Hall. It has nothing to do with you and me. As long as you can serve the Immortal Palace in Starlord Hall, one day you will be able to wash away your sins and return to the Immortal Palace. Humph. Xiaohua's eyes turned slightly as he pondered. He then raised his head and said, anyone can say such words, but did Hallmaster do it? Which immortal messenger of the Immortal Palace wanted Hallmaster to set up these three formations? Which immortal messenger of the Immortal Palace dared to bring the demon refining pot to the lower realm? Which immortal envoy gave Palace Master the guts to actually kill several hundred nascent soul cultivators from the hidden immortal mainland? How dare you? Kong Hongwu shouted angrily. Are you qualified to question what I've done? Do you think you can afford to offend the deity emissary who brought the demon purification pot to the mortal world? Not to mention you, even if the people from the Pure Abode Palace came here, who would dare to say no? Xiao Hua was somewhat bewildered. Although he didn't completely obtain Taisher Zhanran's memories, he didn't know anything about this so-called Pure Abode Palace. Suddenly, Xiao Hua became vigilant. If it wasn't for Taisher Zhanran's memories of the Pure Abode Palace being sealed, then this Kong Hongwu was playing tricks again. However, Xiao Hua didn't understand. Kong Hongwu's strength far exceeded his or Taisher Zhanran's, so what reason did he have to play tricks? An Immortal Palace Medallion. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Hua understood. Kong Hongwu must have used an Immortal Palace Medallion to enter this place. He could enter this place, so of course, he also had an Immortal Palace Medallion similar to Kong Hongwu's. Moreover, this Immortal Palace Medallion must have come from the same Immortal Palace. Since they were both in Star-Lord Palace and there were two similar Immortal Palace Medallions, Kong Hongwu, as the Palace Master, naturally had some guesses. The biggest possibility was that the deity emissary was not at ease with Kong Hongwu and gave Taisher Zhanran an Immortal Palace Medallion to let Taisher Zhanran monitor Kong Hongwu. Towards this kind of Taisher Zhanran, Kong Hongwu naturally didn't dare to act rashly. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that Kong Hongwu was afraid that Xiao Hua would escape and spread the news here to the Immortal Palace. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua smiled and lightly waved his hand. Palace Master, what you said earlier, this general knows. No matter what this general's background was before coming to Star-Lord Palace, it's no longer important. What's important is that this general, like Palace Master, wants to perform meritorious deeds and return to the Immortal Palace. It's also because of this that this general was cautious and had no choice but to come here to investigate. Since this place is the same as what the deity emissary wants, then this general will take his leave. After speaking, Xiao Hua cupped his fists towards Kong Hongwu and turned to leave. Wait! Kong Hongwu coldly snorted and shouted, "This is the forbidden area of my Star-Lord Palace. How can you come and go as you please? What does Palace Master mean? Do you still want this general to stay?" Xiao Hua also coldly smiled. Kong Hongwu looked at Xiao Hua's fearless appearance and was even more certain of the origin of the Immortal Palace Medallion. Although his eyes flashed with a trace of anger, he was still afraid in his heart. After thinking for a while, he waved his hand and said, "This is Star-Lord Palace. The Palace Master is this old man, not you." Although this old man doesn't know why the deity emissary arranged this old man can clearly tell you that after this matter, you will no longer be the Sun Horse of Star of my Star-Lord Palace. As for where you will go ask the master behind you. Get lost. The expression on Xiao Hua's face didn't change and even showed a trace of a smile. He lightly said, "Whether this general can stay in Star-Lord Palace or not is not something that a small palace master like you can decide. If this general can't see through this, how can I dare to accept the Immortal Palace Medallion? Palace Master Kong, don't think that Ling Hu." Speaking until here, Xiao Hua promptly stopped. He knew that Ling Hu Pyron and Kong Hongwu had a very close relationship, but what relationship did Ling Hu Pyron have with the Immortal Palace? Even Taisher Zhanran didn't understand the strangeness of it and only felt that it was somewhat suspicious. Xiao Hua stopped talking, but his eyes still looked at Kong Hongwu without fear. It seemed somewhat provocative, but in reality, Xiao Hua's mind was rapidly turning. How could he leave this place? What he wanted to do was to kill this Kong Hongwu as quickly as possible. But Kong Hongwu was a Confucian cultivator of the upper 5th grade of essence energy. Xiao Hua didn't have a trace of certainty. He was calculating the distance between them and gauging how he could use the wind escape technique to quickly approach Kong Hongwu. Get lost! Kong Hongwu seemed like he would dirty his mouth if he said another word. His face was like frost and his figure slightly retreated, as if he was opening up a path. This general hopes that Palace Master Darren will carefully consider it. Just pretend that you didn't see this general here today. Xiao Hua put on an act and flew towards Kong Hongwu. Moreover, his face didn't have any vigilance at all, as if Taisher Zhanran really wasn't afraid of Kong Hongwu making a move. Kong Hongwu's face was obviously unsightly, but his expression wasn't as angry as before. Instead, it showed the magnanimity of a palace master. When he flew to a suitable distance, Xiaohua suddenly opened his mouth and cupped his hands, saying, "Oh right, Palace Master Darren, the immortal emissary also said something to this general." When Kong Hongwu heard that it was the immortal emissary, his heart slightly moved. His eyes flashed with a strange light, but it was a very natural reaction. He casually asked, "What did he say?" "Go die." Xiaohua suddenly urged his magic power. Like a gust of wind, his entire figure mysteriously disappeared. The afterimage in the air was like a painting. On the painting scroll, a golden light suddenly appeared and cut towards Kong Hongwu's neck. Soaring Dragon Shears. This was Xiaohua's sharpest move right now. Moreover, the distance was so close. Xiaohua didn't think that Kong Hongwu had any method to escape. Even if this attack couldn't kill Kong Hongwu, Xiaohua was confident that it could injure Kong Hongwu. However, when Xiaohua got closer to Kong Hongwu, he saw that Kong Hongwu's expression suddenly revealed a hint of complacency. Xiaohua suddenly felt that something was wrong. Kill! At this point, Xiaohua couldn't care too much and could only urge the Soaring Dragon Shears with all his strength. Swoosh! The Soaring Dragon Shears were as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, it cut through Kong Hongwu's neck. However, Kong Hongwu didn't scream, nor did he spurt out blood. It was as if this Kong Hongwu was an illusion. Sure enough, Kong Hongwu laughed and raised his hand, saying, "Brat, you only just cultivated the spirit back to the void, yet you dare to challenge this old man. Do you know what spirit back to the void is?" Run! Xiaohua saw that the Soaring Dragon Shears couldn't do anything. This spirit back to the void was truly miraculous. Although he also had some achievements in his Confucian cultivation, he still hadn't reached such a high level. In his heart, he was astonished and urged the wind escape technique again. "Humph, you only learned a few insignificant Taoist tricks, yet you still dare to be arrogant in front of this old man." As soon as Xiaohua moved, Kong Hongwu sneered again. He didn't make a move, but on the surface of his star armor, 3 of the stars were suffused with strange colors. Along with the appearance of these colors, the armor on Xiaohua's body also changed. Layers of inscriptions emerged from the cracks of the armor. The entire armor immediately turned into a shackle and shrank towards Xiaohua's body. What was special was that on the armor's breastplate, inscriptions that were smaller than ants uncontrollably gushed out. Waves of pain that were more painful than needles rushed into Xiaohua's middle dantian, as if they wanted to seal Xiaohua's Confucian cultivation. Xiaohua turned pale with fright. He immediately understood the meaning of Kong Hongwu's previous strange look. While he was scheming against Kong Hongwu, he didn't know that he had already fallen into his opponent's trap. The star armor of the 28 celestial monarchs should be Kong Hongwu's weapon to control these celestial monarchs. When he wanted to get close to Kong Hongwu also wanted him to get close. Boom! Xiaohua made a prompt decision and displayed the heavenly law's embodiment of heaven and earth. Moreover, in his middle dantian, Confucian cultivator Xiaohua spat out sword qi and activated the 5 qi origin formation to resist the sealing power of the armor. You are not Taisher Zhanran." Seeing that Xiaohua's body was full of heaven and earth spirit qi, his body was rapidly expanding. Although the Celestial Monarch Palace's armor was also expanding, it seemed to be somewhat unable to suppress Xiaohua. Kong Hongwu immediately came to his senses and cried out in surprise, "You are a Taoist disciple?" Moreover, as soon as these words came out, Kong Hongwu cried out involuntarily, You are Xiaohua of Taoism." When Xiaohua heard this, not only was he not happy, but he was also shocked. His name was remembered by the Celestial Monarch Palace's hallmaster, and in such a short time, if he didn't get rid of this person, he would never have a day of peace in the future. Chapter 3651. After Kong Hongwu recovered from his shock, a sneer appeared on his face. "No wonder Ling Hu has been searching for you for a year and even killed many cultivators hiding in the star array, but he still couldn't find you. It turns out that you are with the disciples of the Buddhist sect. Grand Mist Ancestor. He really doesn't know life from death. His scheme is really too big." Grand Mist Ancestor? Xiaohua was slightly stunned, and instantly understood that Kong Hongwu had made a mistake, but he didn't explain. He let out a low roar, and his whole body expanded again. Kong Hongwu didn't care about Xiaohua's struggle. He opened his mouth and a breath of true qi fell on his star armor. The star armor's multicolored light became brighter, and the star armor that imprisoned Xiao Hua expanded along with Xiao Hua's body. This old man didn't expect you to have the immortal palace token, and actually sneak in here. Kong Hongwu was in a good mood, and he laughed. Unfortunately, other people invite you into the jar, but you came in uninvited. If Ling Hu knew, his lungs would explode. While speaking, Kong Hongwu's figure flew, blocking the star path to prevent Xiao Hua from escaping. Buzz! At this moment, a dark golden brilliance burst out from Xiao Hua's body, and then under the golden light, 5 colored clouds also rushed out, and Xiao Hua's huge transcendence golden body suddenly shrank with this brilliance, turning into a thin bamboo stick in front of Kong Hongwu's eyes. Kong Hongwu was stunned, and he cried out in surprise again. You actually know the 5 cheese unification? How is this possible? However, his astonishment didn't disappear. Xiao Hua's thin bamboo body was surrounded by countless thin threads of lightning. Xiao Hua's figure flashed even faster than lightning, forcibly breaking free from the shackles formed by the armor. Kong Hongwu's eyeballs almost fell out, and he watched Xiao Hua fly high into the sky. Thunder. Thunder element technique? You and the Thunder Tai province. What do you have to do with it? At this point, Kong Hongwu's face showed a trace of fear. Looking at Xiao Hua's body again, the moment Xiao Hua broke free, the entire shackle once again merged together like lightning. Countless inscriptions surged inside, revealing wisps of blood-red color. When Xiao Hua heard Kong Hongwu's words, he no longer concealed himself and revealed his true appearance. He pointed his finger, and the soaring dragon shears once again flew into the air. This time, it transformed into a golden dragon, and with a flicker of the dragon's tail, it once again slashed towards Kong Hongwu's forehead. So it really is you. Seeing Xiao Hua reveal the truth, Kong Hongwu was relieved. The fear in his eyes disappeared. He raised his head and looked at the soaring dragon shears. He didn't dare to be too careless. He raised his hand and a vast chi pillar appeared out of thin air, condensing into a huge fist. Shwa! The soaring dragon shears chopped down and split the fist in half. However, when the soaring dragon shears landed on his fist, its brilliance dimmed momentarily. It's nothing much. Kong Hongwu laughed. If I let you meet Ling Hu, I'm afraid his life will be in danger. However, speaking of this, Kong Hongwu woke up again. He looked at the azure dragon saber in Xiao Hua's hand and frowned. Could it be? You have already killed Sun Horse of Star? Yes. Xiao Hua's body flashed with brilliance. He raised his hand and the soaring dragon shears struggled to jump a few times, breaking free from Kong Hongwu's control. This Kong Hongwu's noble chi was condensed and was 10 times more tyrannical than the other Confucian cultivators Xiao Hua had seen. In that case, Jing Mushuan also died in your hands? Kong Hongwu looked at Xiao Hua's spiritual power with interest. Whether it was the abundant chi of heaven and earth or the vast spiritual power, they all gathered into thousands of vortexes on the surface of Xiao Hua's body. Each vortex had a power that made people look askance. Seeing Kong Hongwu so calm, Xiao Hua knew in his heart that today was a little difficult. Although his eyes didn't look at the huge vortex behind him, his mind was trying to communicate with the green-robed Xiao Hua. Now that he heard Kong Hongwu's question, he coldly said, "Of course. Not only Jing Mushuan, even Tail Fire Tiger died in my hands." Haha, not bad, not bad. Not only was Kong Hongwu not angry, he laughed and clapped his hands. These are usually arrogant and unruly celestial monarchs. This old man has always wanted to get rid of them, but each of them has some annoying background. Although those people usually don't care about these so-called celestial monarchs, if this old man makes a move, those people will definitely make a move. This old man has no choice but to be patient. You have helped this old man like this. This old man really wants to thank you. The demon refining pot was really too powerful. Xiao Hua was too far away from the vortex and couldn't contact the green-robed Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua didn't want to attract Kong Hongwu's attention, and wanted the green-robed Xiao Hua to act as a secret weapon. Therefore, when he heard Kong Hongwu playing a bit like a cat catching a mouse, he said, "In that case, let this old man out. Or let this old man be a celestial monarch." "Why not?" Kong Hongwu nodded. "Although you are a Taoist cultivator, you also understand my Confucian cultivation method. Moreover, it seems that your Confucian cultivation is not bad. If you are willing, this old man can accept you as this old man's star general. If you casually earn some merits, This old man can promote you to a celestial monarch without any problems. Xiao Hua smiled. The so-called merits should be the heads of Taoist cultivators. Kong Hongwu didn't hide it and nodded. Of course. In my celestial monarch hall, there is nothing more valuable than the heads of Taoist cultivators. What about Taoist Huada? Did he not give enough heads to celestial monarch hall? Xiao Hua asked with interest. Kong Hongwu replied, his merits are enough, but his luck is not good. The 28 celestial monarchs have not been vacant for many years. Ha ha ha. I never thought that there would be a day when this old man and this sanctimonious person would be in the same hall as each other. Xiao Hua laughed. Kong Hongwu sneered. What? Do you think that joining my celestial monarch hall is selling your master for glory? Think about it, on this jade mountain, how many Taoist cultivators want to join my celestial monarch hall? That day, if not for Taoist Master Huada begging and personally killing 6 nascent soul cultivators of New Country and dozens of Golden Core disciples, this old man accepted him as a star general. Although his cultivation is not bad, compared to you, he is still a bit lacking. This old man saw that your skills are not bad and that you have received the true teachings of my Confucian cultivators. This is why this old man cherished talent. No need. Xiao Hua saw that he couldn't contact the green-robed Xiao Hua. He knew that he might not be able to break this devil refining pot in a hurry, so he extinguished this thought. He also didn't feel like feigning civility with Kong Hongwu. He waved his hand and said, this Xiao's Dao heart is solid. I would rather die to seek the Dao than become someone's lackey. You can give up on this idea. Strong sad sigh. Kong Hongwu praised. You are worthy of being Taoist Master Xiao. This old man admires you. Since you want to be a loyal follower of Grand Mist Ancestor, then this old man will help you. Before his voice fell, Kong Hongwu raised his hand, and an Aoran chi fell into his palm out of thin air. Boom! As Kong Hongwu's arm swung down, the Aoran chi smashed down with the power of Xiao Hua's wishful staff. Xiao Hua frowned. Although the overwhelming power of this overwhelming chi pillar was huge, it should be more than enough to deal with a nascent soul cultivator. However, for a cultivator like him who had killed 3 Star Lords, it was far from enough. What kind of medicine is this Kong Hongwu selling in his gourd? Xiao Hua was alert and didn't dare to be negligent. He released his divine sense to investigate, put away the azure dragon saber, and raised the wishful will staff. With a loud roar, he flew up to meet the incoming attack. Boom! A loud explosion resounded. It was as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. However, at the same time that the righteous energy pillar was destroyed by Xiao Hua, the righteous energy pillar once again rumbled. Kong Hongwu grinned as he did his best to grab the air with both hands. Dozens of streams of true qi rushed out and controlled the space several hundred feet around Xiao Hua. Layer after layer of righteous energy pillars came crashing down, wave after wave, as if they wanted to drown Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua was stunned and his figure involuntarily retreated. After all, this overwhelming qi pillar seemed to be solid, and Kong Hongwu was going all out, so Xiao Hua could only avoid it. Just as Xiao Hua retreated 100 meters, a huge suction force emerged from the whirlpool behind him. It was as if a huge hand had grabbed onto Xiao Hua. Only then did Xiao Hua come to his senses. Kong Hongwu didn't intend to kill Xiao Hua himself, but let Xiao Hua fall into the vortex of the demon refining gourd. Kong Hongwu's caution and suspicion could be seen. Oh, not good. The suction force suddenly submerged Xiao Hua. The strength of the suction force really exceeded Xiao Hua's expectations. Xiao Hua's heart tightened, and lightning flashed around his body as he flew to the side. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua still underestimated Kong Hongwu's caution. He had just flown a few dozen feet when the overwhelming qi pillar also roared and rushed over, and the strong force forced Xiao Hua to resist. Boom! Xiao Hua was anxious and no longer escaped to the side. His divine sense was like a hammer as it blasted towards the overwhelming qi pillar. At the same time, his figure rushed forward like a sharp sword. Who knew that Xiao Hua's divine sense would easily shatter Kong Hongwu's overwhelming qi pillar? Not only was Kong Hongwu not shocked, but his face showed a kind of gloating expression, and the interest in his eyes became more and more intense. Woo! The moment the great pillar of qi shattered, Xiao Hua's vision was completely empty. Moreover, Xiao Hua's figure had already flown more than 100 zhong away in the blink of an eye. However, at this moment, a violent gust of wind blew, and the suction force that had enveloped Xiao Hua's body before suddenly activated. With a force that was tens of times stronger than before, Xiao Hua's figure was instantly pulled back. Even if Xiao Hua's body flashed with lightning, he could only barely move forward a few feet, and this distance caused the suction force to intensify again. Damn you, old thief! Xiao Hua finally understood. Now that he was within the range of the suction force of the demon refining gourd's vortex, the overwhelming chi pillar near him was balanced. Kong Hongwu's overwhelming chi pillar was directed towards the vortex, so the suction force naturally ignored it. But he actually destroyed the overwhelming chi pillar, which immediately caused an imbalance in the chi pillar, and the suction force was naturally generated. The more he wanted to rush out of the suction force, the more he wanted to extinguish the overwhelming chi pillar, and the stronger the suction force was. He was still careless and fell into Kong Hongwu's trap. Chapter 3652. Xiao Hua watched as the powerful suction force grabbed him like a powerful hand. Even if he used all of his cultivation to forcibly break free from the suction force, there would still be a more powerful opponent waiting for him. Xiao Hua couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Today was a situation where he would definitely die. Kong Hongwu had obviously expected this. A trace of a smile hung on the corner of his mouth as he looked at Xiao Hua from afar. He actually wanted to know how Xiao Hua would escape. This was the trap he had prepared from the very beginning when he saw Xiao Hua. However, at that time, he thought Xiao Hua was Taisha Zhanran. Now that he saw Xiao Hua being forced into a desperate situation step by step, Kong Hongwu was even more excited than if he were to personally kill Xiao Hua. However, Xiao Hua's next move caused Kong Hongwu to be extremely puzzled. Because Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something, he suddenly turned sideways and unexpectedly used a flying technique to fly into the whirlpool. Ha! This guy! What kind of trick does he have now? The cautious Kong Hongwu was startled. He promptly used the clear eyes technique to investigate. After observing for a moment, Kong Hongwu unconsciously sighed. Alas, such an intelligent cultivator, how could he cultivate into a Taoist sect? If he could become a Confucian cultivator, sooner or later he would become a scholar. Of course, even though Xiao Hua was currently using the lightning escape technique, he was currently flying around the enormous whirlpool. Even though the suction force of the whirlpool was extremely great, as Xiao Hua was flying, a natural outward force was produced. This force was originally from the whirlpool itself, and thus, it was able to effectively resist the suction force that Xiao Hua was unable to match. Although Kong Hongwu was convinced, he couldn't help but praise Xiao Hua. However, he didn't know that Xiao Hua had already encountered a cloud mist beast on the Yulian mountains of the Xiaoyu continent when he was in the aura refining stage. At that time, Xiao Hua had relied on his flying advantage to escape. This kind of experience of using an evasion technique to escape, Xiao Hua was truly much better than others. Seeing Xiao Hua fly far away, Kong Hongwu didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly urged his body to follow behind. Although he couldn't catch up to Xiao Hua, he was able to see Xiao Hua's struggling shadow. However, after flying for a while, Kong Hongwu gave up. After all, the whirlpool was too big, and Kong Hongwu couldn't catch up to Xiao Hua. Moreover, even if Xiao Hua wanted to use his flying technique to escape from the suction of the whirlpool, he was still mercilessly sucked in by the whirlpool. Xiao Hua flew very far away, and in fact, the momentum of leaving the whirlpool only weakened a little. This was far from enough for him to escape from the whirlpool. Kong Hongwu seemed to have seen Xiao Hua's death. He simply stood in midair and only used the clear eyes technique to check and be on guard. At this moment, the entire vortex let out a low rumbling sound. Following the sound, a ray of brilliance spilled out from the vortex, rushing straight into the seemingly deep sky. Wherever the brilliance was, starlight would form. When the starlight fell into the brilliance, it immediately fell from the sky and landed on top of the vortex. Kong Hongwu could clearly see that there was a nascent soul inside the vortex. Ha ha! Kong Hongwu laughed proudly. He watched as the nascent soul couldn't break free from the suction of the whirlpool no matter how hard it struggled. It was gradually pulled into the whirlpool. Moreover, when the nascent soul entered the whirlpool, its entire body immediately grew uncontrollably. From a few feet to a few feet, then to 100 feet to 1,000 feet. At the same time, the brilliance from before followed the nascent soul's body and also grew. Fortunately, Xiao Hua had tempered his body before, so he could still resist. However, the closer he got to the center of the whirlpool, the stronger the tearing force and the stronger the suction force. Xiao Hua's body was also being pulled apart. These two forces were nothing. What gave Xiao Hua the most headache was the world's origin energy. Although the world's origin energy was very rich in this place, the world's origin energy was abnormally tyrannical. It was like a bad-tempered child playing, rampaging, and being sucked into his meridians. Even his meridians were being torn apart. If it weren't for the dragon vein in his meridians, Xiao Hua would have been torn apart by the world's origin energy. However, being so close to the whirlpool and being so close to death, Xiao Hua could faintly feel the existence of the green-robed Xiao Hua in these chaotic fluctuations. Of course, some information was also transmitted from the green-robed Xiao Hua. While Xiao Hua was struggling, his mind was rapidly turning. From time to time, he would intermittently discuss with the green-robed Xiao Hua how to escape. When Kong Hongwu flew over, Xiao Hua naturally also saw him. He knew that this guy wouldn't leave until he saw him being pulled into the demon refining gourd. So, he simply ignored him and closed his eyes to feel the rotation of the whirlpool, carefully thinking about how to escape. Just like before, Kong Hongwu chased and observed for a moment. Seeing Xiao Hua actually close his eyes, he knew that Xiao Hua was thinking hard. Kong Hongwu sneered in his heart. His figure stopped in midair, and then he once again went against the whirlpool to observe Xiao Hua. After doing this a few times, Xiao Hua fell deeper and deeper into the whirlpool. The tearing force pulled up the brilliance around Xiao Hua's body. Xiao Hua was like a hedgehog with thorns. The brilliance around his body stood up and rushed towards the center of the whirlpool. In another half a meal. That's when Xiao Hua will die. Kong Hongwu's heart fell. When his figure stopped again, he became somewhat lazy and didn't continue to pursue Xiao Hua to investigate. It was also at this moment that Xiao Hua's eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were like stars. He raised his eyes and looked at the green-robed Xiao Hua's nascent soul that was rotating parallel to his body. Only now did Xiao Hua see that under the green-robed Xiao Hua's body, there was another nascent soul that was protected by the brilliance of the ice-deadly mirror. It was Taoist Master Jing Ting who fell into the whirlpool a step earlier. Xiao Hua's eyes turned, and he secretly instructed the green-robed Xiao Hua a few words. Soon after, he released his transcendence energy. His entire body began to be pulled apart by the tearing force. Xiao Hua even activated the Heavenly Laws embodiment technique, and his body rapidly expanded. 100 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. Finally, it expanded to more than 600 feet. Whoa! The Transcendence golden body suddenly opened its mouth, and the spiritual fire that it had been accumulating power for a long time blurted out. In an instant, it turned into a fire net that was 100 feet in size and rushed towards the whirlpool. Although the demon refining pot was incomparably tyrannical, it didn't have any suction force on the spiritual fire. The 100 feet in size of the spiritual fire fell on top of the whirlpool, extinguishing all the starlight, the mighty pillars of qi, and so on. However, although the spiritual fire was 100 feet in size, it was still too small compared to the whirlpool. The spiritual fire only destroyed a small corner of the whirlpool. And at this moment, woo! A similar sound of fire whistling came from the shaking space. Within the whirlpool, the green-robed Xiao Hua's nascent soul also spat out a fire net from its mouth. It faced the fire net of Xiao Hua's spiritual fire. When the two spiritual fires met, the firepower was even more powerful. Under the powerful tearing force of the whirlpool, the flames tenaciously fused together. Shwa! The moment the fire net of spiritual fire was successfully attacked from the inside and outside, the six-colored brilliance rushed out from the green-robed Xiao Hua's icy mirror. Then, 100 feet in size gap appeared on top of the whirlpool. Ayo! The green-robed Xiao Hua howled like a wolf. He put away the icy mirror, and his whole body flashed with a dazzling brilliance, rushing towards that gap. Behind him, the brilliance that was dragging behind him was like a long tail. Seeing this, Xiao Hua understood in his heart that the green-robed Xiao Hua was consuming the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in his nascent soul to activate the teleportation technique. However, under the incomparable suction force of the whirlpool, this teleportation was just an ordinary flying technique. Just this flying technique alone was enough. In a moment, the green-robed Xiao Hua's incomplete nascent soul body had already rushed out of the whirlpool. Moreover, behind the green-robed Xiao Hua was dragging Taoist Jingting's somewhat thin and somewhat lifeless nascent soul body. When the two huge nascent soul bodies came out of the whirlpool, they immediately shrunk by more than 10 times, much smaller than the current Xiao Hua. Good. Xiao Hua applauded. He knew that his plan with the green-robed Xiao Hua was correct. Seeing the green-robed Xiao Hua bring Taoist Jingting's nascent soul out of the whirlpool, he only needed to take the risk and cooperate with the green-robed Xiao Hua one more time to escape the whirlpool. However, when Xiao Hua was about to use his magic power, he saw that behind Taoist Jingting, there were several nascent soul bodies following him out. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. How could he not know that the green-robed Xiao Hua was taking advantage of the situation? He really wanted to scold the green-robed Xiao Hua for not knowing his priorities, but thinking about it, wasn't this his usual character? If it wasn't for the greed in his heart, how would the green-robed Xiao Hua know and do this? Chapter 3653. Damn it, now that things have come to a head. Just as Xiao Hua's thoughts emerged, the green-robed Xiao Hua immediately knew and immediately said. Xiao Hua slightly nodded. A faint sense of guilt appeared in his heart. Just as this guilt appeared, the green-robed Xiao Hua brought Taoist Master Jingting to a place not far away. However, at this time, the green-robed Xiao Hua's spirit body had already been exhausted. He no longer used his spirit body and waved his hand. A nascent soul spirit body under Taoist Master Jingting immediately flew in front of him. Xiao Hua looked at Xiao Hua and waited for Xiao Hua to speak. Xiao Hua looked at the pale nascent soul and said in a low voice, "Now that I want to escape, I have to rely on fellow Taoist strength. Once I escape, I will chant the rebirth mantra for fellow Taoist and send fellow Taoist into the cycle of reincarnation. This is 100 times better than fellow Taoist falling into the Lianyao pot." With that, Xiao Hua nodded towards the green-robed Xiao Hua. The green-robed Xiao Hua flicked his finger. Boom! The nascent soul spirit body immediately exploded. The explosion created a powerful force that pushed Xiao Hua and the green-robed Xiao Hua's spirit body in 2 different directions. Right now! Xiao Hua shouted in his heart. Xiao Hua, use the teleportation technique and rush out of the whirlpool's suction force. After he finished speaking, Xiao Hua aroused all the magic power in his body and activated the wind escape technique. He used all his strength to borrow this strong momentum to fly away. However, at this moment, Xiao Hua's gaze swept past the green-robed Xiao Hua. He saw a string of more than 10 nascent soul spirit bodies being dragged out by him and flew far away. Xiao Hua's heart was moved. It would be a waste if he didn't take them, but it would be a waste if he took them. His spirit sense was like a hammer, immediately probing into the fire net that had not yet been extinguished. His spirit sense giant hand scooped up the whirlpool. No matter how much it scooped up, Xiao Hua immediately rushed out as fast as lightning. "Ayo, why are they so heavy?" The nascent soul spirit bodies falling into the spirit sense giant hand were not as light as Xiao Hua looked. Every nascent soul seemed to be 1,000 caddies heavy. Xiao Hua was shocked but also realized that the Lianyao pot's main purpose here was to collect nascent souls. He wanted to snatch food from the tiger's mouth, so his nascent soul naturally had to be heavy. However, how could Xiao Hua let go of the advantage in his mouth? After nearly a year of tempering his spirit sense, Xiao Hua didn't let him down. While urging his magic power, more than 10 nascent souls were big and small were also caught by Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua hurriedly took a break and hurriedly imprisoned these nascent souls into his dantian. Then, he urged using the wind escape technique to escape from the whirlpool and flew towards Xiao Hua's direction. Die, 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 die. Suddenly, 3 angry voices came from the other side of the whirlpool. It was Kong Honggu. When he heard the strange noise from the whirlpool, he sensed it and hurriedly flew over to take a look. When Kong Honggu saw that Xiao Hua had actually escaped from the vortex while he had been slacking for only a few moments, and that there were more than 10 nascent soul cultivators flying out from the same direction as Xiao Hua, Kong Honggu was truly enraged. He cursed a few times and waved his hands, causing hundreds of pillars of boundless qi to smash towards him. As for the green-robed Xiao Hua and the other nascent soul cultivators, Kong Honggu didn't even spare them a glance. Whoa! Just as the great pillar of qi was formed, before it could even travel a few feet, the green-robed Xiao Hua at the edge of the vortex waved his small hand, and the icy mirror appeared once again. Between the swirling wind and the surging clouds, A thick six-colored brilliance rushed towards Kong Hongwu. Wherever the brilliance passed, the great pillar of qi would immediately melt like ice water in boiling soup, turning into ordinary great pillar of qi. Kong Hongwu stared blankly for a moment, then grinned and waved his sleeve. Woo! There was no pillar of righteous qi, but an incomparably powerful righteous qi turned into a hurricane and rushed towards the green-robed Xiaohua, as if it wanted to blow this group of nascent soul cultivators back into the vortex. Not good. Xiaohua was shocked. Just as he was about to urge the wind escape technique to go over, he heard Xiaohua's sinister laughter. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, he saw the green-robed Xiaohua extend the icy mirror. Another thick beam of light rushed out from the icy mirror. However, this beam of light didn't directly cover Kong Hongwu's noble qi. Instead, it rushed towards the whirlpool. However, the moment the beam of light touched the whirlpool, it abruptly turned back. Hong! When the noble qi hit the light pillar seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. It immediately trembled and rapidly retreated. When it fell into the suction force of the whirlpool, it once again fiercely attacked the green-robed Xiaohua in the same direction as before. Looking at the green-robed Xiaohua again, the icy mirror in his hand slightly changed direction. When the huge force landed on the icy mirror, it was as if Kong Hongwu used all his strength to push the green-robed Xiaohua into the air. It was as if the green-robed Xiaohua was flying straight towards him. Great! Xiaohua was ecstatic, not only because of Xiaohua's quick-wittedness, but also because of the icy mirror's wonders. Needless to say, in this year, Xiaohua must have used all his strength to refine this icy mirror. Now the icy mirror must have reached the level of a spirit tool. Xiaohua was ecstatic, and once again urged the wind escape technique. When Xiaohua arrived like a gust of wind, Xiaohua also borrowed this force and his body accelerated again. At the same time, his divine sense swept out, and more than 10 nascent souls entered his dantian. When Xiaohua entered Xiaohua's body, he flicked his finger. Boom! The few remaining nascent souls exploded again, and this explosive force once again pushed Xiaohua. Woo! The mournful sound of the air braking was endless. Xiaohua felt his body become lighter, and finally escaped from the whirlpool's suction force. At this time, Kong Hongwu, who had been stunned by the series of strange changes in the distance, seemed to have awoken from a dream. Only now did he realize that the nascent soul in front of him was actually in cahoots with Xiaohua. Damn it! Kong Hongwu was really angry, and he couldn't help but curse again. Xiaohua's behavior was really too much. It seemed that not only did he notice this great formation, but he also didn't forget to take more than 10 nascent souls from the demon refining pot in front of him. This was a naked slap in the face. Kong Hongwu felt a burning pain on his face. Kong Hongwu waved his hands, and thousands of inscriptions appeared, and a nascent soul phantom the same size as Kong Hongwu appeared. This phantom actually turned into a pair of huge wings, and in a flash, it chased in the direction Xiaohua escaped in. Hee hee. Xiaohua sneered. Since he saved Taoist Jingting's nascent soul and Xiaohua returned safely, who would still fight Kong Hongwu to the death? Almost without hesitation, he urged the lightning escape technique to rush into the starry sky. Xiaohua, give me your life. Although Kong Hongwu used the soul refining technique and could change his nascent soul at will, and even turn it into nothingness, he still couldn't reach Xiaohua's lightning escape technique. However, in a flash, Xiaohua had already rushed into the starry sky, leaving behind an inexplicable star path. Kong Hongwu's face showed a sneer again, because he understood that this starry sky was a maze even more strange than the sun, moon, and star-great formation. If he didn't have the guidance of the immortal general who set up the formation, he absolutely wouldn't dare to rashly enter. The trap in the maze was also inextricably linked to the whirlpool of the demon refining pot. Kong Hongwu was just bluffing again, so that Xiaohua would rush into the maze without looking carefully, and once again fall into the whirlpool of the demon refining pot. However, that short-lived sneer just fell on Kong Hongwu's face and quickly disappeared. Because although Xiaohua used the light escape technique, the star path below him was rugged and winding, and he simply didn't want to fly straight. How did this guy know about the maze set up by the immortal general of the immortal palace? Kong Hongwu roared in disbelief, and a flying sword almost flew out of his eyes to kill Xiaohua on the spot. This was because Xiaohua was still flying straight at the start. That star path was rather obvious, but towards the end, Xiao Hua was actually leaping through the starry sky like a ghost. That star path was like a splashing painting. Stroke by stroke, it was painted in the darkness. In particular, Xiao Hua's wind escape technique was so flexible. While Kong Hongwu was stunned, Xiao Hua had already flown very far away. I absolutely can't let this guy escape here. Absolutely can't. Kong Hongwu suddenly had a premonition that as long as Xiao Hua could escape from this great formation, he feared that even if he ascended to the ninth heaven or descended to the ninth underworld, he wouldn't be able to catch up with Xiao Hua. Moreover, if Xiao Hua leaked the situation of this great formation, even if he could deny it, the number of nascent soul cultivators who died in the Jade Pavilion meeting was unprecedented, and any cultivator would be suspicious. Perhaps the Immortal Palace wouldn't care about this little bit of suspicion, but what about him? Obviously, the guarantee he made in front of the Immortal Emissary had already lost its effect. Thinking of the Immortal Emissary, thinking of that Gidge smile, and the her that the Immortal Emissary spoke of, Kong Hongwu shuddered and immediately made a decision in his heart. Immediately, Kong Hongwu unhesitatingly spread out the wings on his back, and his whole body suddenly became illusory, and he pounced into the darkness. Although the path he took was different, and the star path below him wasn't clear, it was obvious that his direction was in front of Xiao Hua, and his path was much closer than Xiao Hua's. Grandma. This old man is tired to death. As soon as the green-robed Xiao Hua fell into Xiao Hua's body, he immediately shouted. Although he didn't say much, Xiao Hua already knew what happened in the past year. Xiao Hua was shocked, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, before he could say anything to the green-robed Xiao Hua, the green-robed Xiao Hua immediately hid in the space. Rumble! A huge sound was produced in the space, and a thunderbolt fell on the green-robed Xiao Hua's body. Not only did his thin body bulge like a balloon, but his dim figure also quickly became clear under the thunderbolts. Cool! 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 The green-robed Xiao Hua shouted 3 times, lying in the air like a dead pig, and looked at the 9 suns in the sky with his 4 feet facing the sky. He didn't even want to move. However, in just a moment, the green-robed Xiao Hua suddenly jumped up from the sky and shouted, "No, no, this old man also wants to establish a sect. This old man also wants to accumulate merits." Chapter 3654. While speaking, green-robed Xiao Hua shouted, "Where is fellow Taoist? Where is fellow Taoist?" Unfortunately, although Xiao Hua heard green-robed Xiao Hua's voice, he was currently focused on escaping. How could he have time to pay attention to him? Seeing that there was no response, green-robed Xiao Hua also knew that he was in a dangerous situation. He shrugged his shoulders and waved his hand, taking a jade slip. It was precisely left behind by the mysterious Do Shan Jun. He placed it on his forehead. That jade slip instantly entered green-robed Xiao Hua's body. Immediately, green-robed Xiao Hua sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend. It seemed that the life and death experience in the Devil Refining Gourd had allowed green-robed Xiao Hua to comprehend many things. He finally began to seriously and actively cultivate. Green-robed Xiao Hua's comprehension was naturally the comprehension of the other primordial spirits. The other primordial spirits also began to feel a sense of crisis and began to cultivate with all their strength. Although Xiao Hua's mind did not enter the space, he could still comprehend green-robed Xiao Hua's thoughts. He sighed with emotion in his heart. The sharpness of a sword is sharpened. The fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. At the same time, he was also doing his best to escape. If he did not escape from this great formation, everything would be nonsense. While Xiao Hua was escaping, he was also observing Kong Hongwu's whereabouts. Unfortunately, it was as dark as night and his divine sense could not be used. Xiao Hua could not see where Kong Hongwu was. Xiao Hua could only desperately use his naked eyes to distinguish the path in the void. He could only use the wind escape technique with all his might, hoping that he could escape to the cave before Kong Hongwu. However, after flying for a while, Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something. His expression suddenly changed and his figure suddenly stopped in the darkness. A layer of cold sweat appeared on his back. Damn it, I almost fell into that old thief's trap again. Xiao Hua's mind turned rapidly. Outside the cave is Yaotai Mountain, Kong Hongwu's old nest. The great formation of Yaotai Mountain can be used by him. Once I leave the cave, even if I escape in front of him, how can I escape from Yaotai Mountain? Also, There is an immortal general's divine sense guarding outside the cave. Looking at his strength, he is not much weaker than Kong Hongwu. Before Kong Hongwu entered the Great Formation, he must have said something to this immortal general. Maybe there is an immortal general intercepting me outside the cave. It is unlikely that I will be able to escape smoothly. Besides, even if I can defeat Kong Hongwu on Yaotai Mountain, there are still 25 Star-Lords in the entire Star-Lord Hall. Every single one of them has the strength of a lower 5th grade essence energy. If they all attack together, I'm afraid it won't be easy for this Xiao to deal with them. As for this Grand Formation, although it is the Grand Formation of the Celestial Palace and is extremely dangerous, Kong Hongwu cannot control it. At most, he can use the abundant noble qi within it. On the other hand, this Xiao also has a large amount of Heaven-Earth Yuan qi at my disposal. I won't be at a disadvantage compared to him. I can even use the Demon Purification Pot to deal with Kong Hongwu. Before this, I only wanted to escape. With such expectations, I fear that I won't even have the chance to escape from the array formation. In fact, there is only one path for me right now, and that is to kill Kong Hongwu. Only with Kong Hongwu dead will I not have to worry about my life, and the Immortal Palace will not know that I was the one who destroyed the array. Only with such a goal can I have a chance of survival. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua no longer hesitated. He immediately turned around and flew back into the array formation. His primordial spirit took this opportunity to enter the space. Fellow Taoist, please. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's face was slightly anxious as he cupped his hands and bowed. Green-robed Xiao Hua hurriedly stood up in midair and cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist, please. I pay my respects. Fellow Taoist must already know what I was thinking. Jade Archive Xiao Hua said with a smile. Green-robed Xiao Hua also replied. Naturally, fellow Taoist must also know what I was thinking. Yes, I know that within the Demon Purification Pot's Grand Formation, all nascent souls are affected by the Demon Purification Pot suction force. Fellow Taoist, if you control our formless nascent souls out of our bodies, we will be restrained by the Demon Purification Pot. We may not be as powerful as before. Jade Archive Xiao Hua nodded and said, but the problem is that I am definitely not that old bastard Kong Hongwu's opponent. If you don't control your nascent souls to help our lives will be in danger. Moreover, the nascent souls absorbed by the Demon Purification Pot are nascent souls that have lost their bodies. They are trees without roots. Fellow Taoist, you and I have a source of water. We don't need to be afraid of the Demon Purification Pot. Green-robed Xiao Hua still shook his head. I have already been drifting outside for a year. I am really scared and don't dare to go out again. Fellow Taoist, you should find someone else to help you. Jade Archive Xiao Hua knew what Green-robed Xiao Hua was thinking, so he asked with a smile that was not a smile. Then how can I make fellow Taoist help me? Green-robed Xiao Hua's eyes lit up and he blurted out. You agree? But immediately, Green-robed Xiao Hua realized that he had forgotten himself too much. He hastily coughed, looked at the empty space and pointed with his finger. Fellow Taoist, look, this space is a great continent. It is many times better than the hidden immortal continent. Why does fellow Taoist have the heart to let this space be abandoned? Why did Little Yellow and Little Black leave? Isn't it because this place is too quiet? The reason why I established the sect was also for you, fellow Taoist. Xiao Hua looked at green-robed Xiao Hua with a smile and nodded. Fellow Taoist, you obtained some enlightenment in the Kunlun Mirror, which was not easy. Then, you experienced life and death in the Demon Purification Pot's Great Formation, which was even more dangerous. I thank fellow Taoist on behalf of everyone. Now, fellow Taoist's thoughts are also I's thoughts. How can I not agree? After Yaotai Mountain, I immediately ordered the disciples of Black Wind Mountain to select the poor children of the hidden immortal continent and properly arrange their families. Then, I sent them to you, so that you can establish a sect and accept disciples. Good, that's right. Green-robed Xiao Hua said with a smile. That bullshit Kunlun Mirror is only the size of a palm, but there are many pavilions and towers built in it. It is called the Kunlun Wonderland. Isn't this space countless times better than that so-called Kunlun Wonderland? Hee, don't compare, don't deceive yourself. Green-robed Xiao Hua said with a smile. If there is a boundary, then there is a boundary. If there is no boundary, then there is no boundary. Good or bad, it is still our home. Yes, I understand. Green-robed Xiao Hua lowered his head and answered. At the end, he did not forget to add, that so-called Kunlun Wonderland has long been in ruins because the Kunlun mirror was shattered. It is more appropriate to call it the Kunlun ruins. How can I compare that thing with our home? I'm afraid we have to get the last fragment of the Kunlun Wonderland from the Xiaoyu continent's Chong Yefeng. Green-robed Xiao Hua naturally did not know that Chong Yefeng had died in the ink cloud Black Forest. He still thought that the fragment of the Kunlun mirror was in Chong Yefeng's hands. Humph, who asked you to be merciful? Green-robed Xiao Hua sneered. At that time, although you thought that Chong Yefeng was holding the clear sky mirror, you should have snatched it even if it was the Kunlun mirror. Now, you and I will have the complete Kunlun mirror. Why do you have to be so difficult? I can snatch it, Xiao Hua said indifferently. In that case, how could I have obtained Little Deer's sword intent? How could I have obtained the primordial soul-splitting technique? How could fellow Taoist still be standing here? Alas, everything is impermanent in the world. Green-robed Xiao Hua said with a sigh. Green-robed Xiao Hua knew that green-robed Xiao Hua was right. He sighed and said, "Let's go. Our physical bodies have already arrived. We are almost there." "Oh, that's right. Fellow Taoist, although we can't use our spiritual will in this darkness, we can still try to ambush Kong Hongwu. We can use the darkness and the maze to catch Kong Hongwu off guard." That's right. That's right. Green-robed Xiao Hua and green-robed Xiao Hua revealed a joyful expression at the same time. They laughed loudly and said, "Green-robed fellow Taoist, Bodhi fellow Taoist, let's go kill this bastard together." Let's go together. Ha ha ha. I like this kind of sneak attack the most. Green-robed Xiao Hua was extremely excited. At the side, green-robed Xiao Hua's face was gloomy. Xiao Hua's mind returned to its original position. He saw that he had arrived in front of the huge whirlpool of the demon refining pot. At this time, he saw that in the sky above the whirlpool, several nascent souls fell from there and turned into huge nascent soul dharma bodies that fell into the whirlpool. Xiao Hua understood that at this time, there should be another fight in the Burning Sun Great Formation. Xiao Hua swept a glance and didn't find any trace of Kong Hongwu. He knew that Kong Hongwu must have chased out of the maze to kill him. Therefore, he hurriedly flew to the place where Kong Hongwu was previously. After looking at it with his naked eyes for a moment, he didn't hesitate to rush into the darkness that Kong Hongwu flew into. At the same time, Xiao Hua patted his head on the top of his head. Green-robed Xiao Hua controlled the invisible nascent soul, and the Kunlun mirror in his hand appeared above his head. See! Green-robed Xiao Hua suddenly appeared. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist, the power of this demon refining pot is really too strong. Although I have the protection of my physical body, I can't be sucked in by it. But, fellow Taoist can't feel the suction of this whirlpool from here, but I can feel that the big hand stretched out of thin air and wanted to grab I." That's right. Xiao Hua carefully flew as he replied. Actually, this poor Taoist has also sensed that the demon refining gourd's great array actually envelopes the entire space, and all nascent souls will be affected by the great array. But outside of the whirlpool, I can't feel it with my physical body. Only when I get close to the whirlpool can I be sucked in. And I understand. Green-robed Xiao Hua nodded. As long as I don't go too far away from my physical body, there shouldn't be too big of a problem. I just don't know how fellow Taoist Subhuti is doing. Namo Maitreya Buddha. As he spoke, Xiao Hua also released Buddha's relic, Subhuti. Sure enough, Subhuti's Buddhist light also disappeared in this darkness. Aside from Xiao Hua being able to sense it, it was no different from a mass of nothingness. Fellow Taoist, what do you feel? Xiao Hua asked in a low voice. Subhuti's answer was as calm as water. Nothing, it's the same as what fellow Taoist green-robed sensed. Ah, could it be that this demon refining pot is also interested in Buddhist relics? Xiao Hua was somewhat shocked. This poor monk doesn't know. I's Buddhist divine abilities are limited. I still can't sense the situation inside the demon refining pot, Subhuti said indifferently. So I can't answer fellow Taoist's question. Chapter 3655. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, looking at the boundless darkness and the star path behind him. He ordered, "Fellow immortal Bodhi, Fellow Taoist green robe, you two fly to the left and right wings of I. We don't need to go too far, we'll lie in ambush here. When I sense the whereabouts of that old thief Kong, the three of us will attack at the same time. Although that guy's essence energy is at the upper 5th level, he has already cultivated to the point where he can refine his spirit into nothingness. We'll let him die without a burial place. Namo Maitreya Buddha, good good. Bodhi chanted the name of Buddha. His tone was quite benevolent. His figure had already flown to the top of Xiao Hua's left hand, and the Buddha seal in his hand began to form. The nascent soul controlled by Xiao Hua covered its mouth and whispered, "Sweeping the floor, don't harm the lives of ants, covering the lamp with moths, hee, this is the conduct of our future Buddha. Fellow immortal is wrong. This poor monk is now Bodhi, not Maitreya Buddha. Wait until this poor monk attains Buddha fruit, then we'll discuss what it means to sweep the floor, don't harm the lives of ants, covering the lamp with moths, okay?" Subhuti lightly replied. When Xiao Hua heard this, he couldn't help but chuckle. Green-robed Xiao Hua had truly met his match. This Subhuti was proficient in Buddhism and even knew how to argue. Although he wasn't as talkative as green-robed Xiao Hua, the things he said were always straight to the point. Xiao Hua was quite bored and resentfully flew from Xiao Hua's head to the right. He didn't forget to look at Xiao Hua and whispered, "It's said that Confucian scholars have sharp tongues. Why do I feel that monks are more powerful than Confucian scholars?" Provocation. Xiao Hua said indifferently, scaring Xiao Hua into shrinking his neck and hurriedly flying to the side. He naturally knew Xiao Hua's anger from before. Xiao Hua was quite regretful that he couldn't use his divine sense in the darkness, but he still took out the wishful rod, moved aside his perception of the star path, and waited on the side. Fortunately, there weren't any traps where Xiao Hua stood, so it was an excellent position for an ambush. After a full meal's time, there was no movement. Xiao Hua's brows slightly wrinkled, and his heart began to beat the drum of retreat. Xiao Hua felt that he might have misjudged the timid and cautious Kong Hongwu. Because Kong Hongwu didn't need to come back at all. He only needed to seal this big formation. After the Yaotai gathering was over, he could use all the power of Yaotai Mountain Star-Lord Palace to deal with him. At that time, Kong Hongwu didn't even need to do it himself. However, after thinking about it for a while, Xiao Hua shook his head again. He did not believe that Kong Hongwu would let others know that he had broken into this great array. After all, the struggle between the various sects of the Immortal Palace seemed to be in full swing. Of course, no matter what, Xiao Hua could only gamble at this moment. Sure enough, in the time it took to eat half a meal, although there was no movement, Xiao Hua suddenly had a feeling that someone was coming over on this road. Xiao Hua's heart was overjoyed. He hurriedly ordered Bodhi and Green Robe again. With one hand, he pinched a dozen fire talismans while the other hand held the wishful rod. He stared at the distance without blinking, waiting for Kong Hongwu to appear so that he could immediately attack. Hoo-hoo! A rush of wind appeared, but in a moment, the wind suddenly stopped. Then the wind sounded again, and a moment later, it stopped again, and so on several times. Hee, it turns out that this old guy is also on guard against this Zhao's ambush. Xiao Hua immediately understood why Kong Hongwu was flying back and forth. He must be afraid that Xiao Hua would ambush him on the road. Unfortunately, this old guy doesn't have the talent to see through the void maze like this Xiao. Today is the day of your death. Although Kong Hongwu had been testing the waters by advancing and retreating, he could tell that Xiao Hua wasn't flying slowly. This was merely a guess. Furthermore, there hadn't been any ambushes along the way. Seeing that he was getting closer to the Devil Refining Gourd's whirlpool, Kong Hongwu once again increased his speed. But just a few feet away from Xiao Hua, Kong Hongwu once again deliberately mystified himself and stopped, retreating a few feet. If Xiao Hua had not already known Kong Hongwu's trick, he would have thought that he had been discovered. Xiao Hua bit his lips and restrained his temper. He cursed a few times in his heart and quietly sent magical power to his hand. Now that Xiao Hua's Yuanying had escaped from his body, this magical power came from the dragon vein in his meridians. Xiao Hua refined the metal essence. After a moment, the sound of Kong Hongwu's flight sounded again, rushing toward the place where Xiao Hua was lying in ambush. Estimating the timing, when Kong Hongwu was close, Xiao Hua suddenly rushed out of the darkness. With a wave of his hand, more than a dozen fire talismans fell near the sound of the wind. His other hand raised the wishful steel staff and smashed it toward Kong Hongwu's location. Ah! A very surprised voice cried out. Xiao Hua heard it clearly. It was the cautious Kong Hongwu. Xiao Hua could not help but be secretly proud. Even if Kong Hongwu was cautious, he still fell into his calculations here. The fire talismans alone were nothing. He was afraid that they could only block Kong Hongwu in a radius of a few feet. The wishful steel staff was still nothing. It was estimated that it could only scratch Kong Hongwu's skin. Xiao Hua seriously injured Kong Hongwu with the green-robed Xiao Hua and Bodhi hidden in the dark. Rumble! Under the urging of his magical power, the fire talismans began to roar, and the surrounding flames began to flicker. However, at the moment when these fire talismans burst, woo! There was a sound of a ghost crying and a wolf howling, and a huge black curtain covered all the fire talismans in a flash. Even the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi was isolated, and the dozens of fire talismans did not really burst. Hee hee! Xiao Hua's ear rang with Kong Hongwu's proud laughter. Do you think you hid well? Do you think this old man's clear eyes technique was cultivated in vain? But with these broken talismans, with this broken staff? You think you can kill this old man? Not good. In an instant, Xiao Hua woke up. He seemed to have been schemed against by Kong Hongwu again. At this moment, with a loud bang, Xiao Hua's wishful steel staff had already hit Kong Hongwu's arm. Ah! Kong Hongwu screamed, as if he did not expect that the wishful steel staff could actually hit his body. With Kong Hongwu's scream, a cold wind appeared in Xiao Hua's lower abdomen. Shua! There was a soft roar. It was the sound of the great spirit pillar that Xiao Hua was familiar with. Then, Xiao Hua's skin became cold. The cold feeling penetrated his body and rushed into his lower dantian. What is this? Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. Unfortunately, before he could circulate his dermic energy to resist this icy cold pillar of grand qi, the bone-chilling coldness had already charged into his dantian. Rumble! As soon as the cold entered his dantian, it immediately caused a strange sound like a landslide and a tsunami. Thousands of great spirit pillars were born from the void, making a destructive attack on Xiao Hua's lower dantian. In Xiao Hua's lower dantian, there was only the roaring of the 5 qi thunder. Even the 5 qi thunder of this immortal palace dissipated under this attack. In particular, when the great spirit pillar rushed into the surface of his small dantian, everything was torn apart, and even a hole was torn in a corner of his dantian. When had Xiao Hua suffered such a serious injury? His true essence could not be refined, and his magical power could not be condensed. His whole body immediately fell from the darkness. Ha ha! Kong Hongwu laughed, but there was a trace of pain in his laughter. You actually dare to play tricks with this old man. In front of this old man, you are just a little kid. How is it, Xiao Hua? Does the soul-destroying technique feel good? This is the ultimate attack of my Star Lord Palace against the Taoist Yuanying stage. Ah! Just when Kong Hongwu was getting carried away, a force comparable to a falling star came from behind him and hit his back with lightning speed. Kong Hongwu screamed and hurriedly turned his body into nothingness to dodge. Unfortunately, with a boom, the great spirit qi scattered. Kong Hongwu, who had cultivated to the realm of refining his spirit to nothingness, was unable to dodge this attack. Even the star armor on his back was shattered, and most of his shoulder was smashed into pieces. Buddha, the Buddha seal of the Buddhist sect? Kong Hongwu's uncertain tone revealed a kind of understanding. Wasn't this the Buddhist sect expert that Xiao Hua joined hands with in the star formation? However, Kong Hongwu really did not know when this Buddhist sect expert arrived at the formation, and how could he escape from his clear eyes technique? Kong Hongwu's tribulation was not only this. Before his body stabilized in mid-air, another 7-colored brilliance rushed out from the darkness. The pure Taoist qi and the terrifying power suddenly reminded Kong Hongwu of the Kunlun mirror he had just seen in the whirlpool of the demon refining pot. Not good. Kong Hongwu knew that now he understood that he had also fallen into Xiao Hua's trap. The Yuanying stage rescued by Xiao Hua had risked an ambush next to him. Boom! With a loud noise, Kong Hongwu felt a sharp pain under his right armpit. His body that had turned into nothingness still could not escape the attack of the Kunlun mirror. The star armor that had been broken before was broken inch by inch. Thousands of inscriptions fell from the star armor like dead tadpoles and turned into a faint great spirit chi. Even Kong Hongwoo's body was lifted up by the huge impact of the Kunlun mirror. He was thrown high into the darkness and fell to the edge of the maze. Kong Hongwoo's face was pale, but his eyes were like stars, staring at the place where Xiao Hua's body fell. He did not believe that Xiao Hua could be intact under the soul-destroying art. However, the cruelty of reality almost made Kong Hongwoo groan. He saw that Xiao Hua's body had only fallen a few dozen feet. Immediately, clouds appeared under his feet and firmly supported him. Then, the great spirit chi around him surged and Xiao Hua rushed out of the darkness again. Gold chi gathering. Kong Hongwoo's eyes were sharp. When he saw the auspicious clouds under Xiao Hua's feet, he immediately understood. Damn it! This Xiao Hua is actually proficient in the gold chi gathering of my Confucian cultivators. Immediately, not far from Xiao Hua, a bodhisattva slowly emerged from the darkness. Looking at the bodhisattva's face that was extremely similar to Xiao Hua's, Kong Hongwoo lost his voice again. Buddha. Buddha's Sarira. Chapter 3656. I understand now, in the star formation of Sunhorse of Star, where are the Buddhist sect experts, working together with the Tao sect cultivators, it's clear. It's clear that you're tempering the Buddhist sect Sarira yourself. Speaking of this, Kong Hongwoo's eyes widened again and he shouted, Xiao Hua, you're actually proficient in Tao, Confucianism and Buddhism? How is this possible? Yes, life has a limit, but learning has no limit. Even if a cultivator's lifespan is long, it's impossible to master all three. In particular, each of the three sects has its own advantages, and these advantages are also mutually exclusive. A cultivator is at most proficient in one or two sects, and only has a rough understanding of the other one. How can there be a genius who can master all three sects? Fortunately, seeing that Xiao Hua could only use his true chi and couldn't use his magic power, Kong Hongwoo rejoiced. This old man destroyed his nascent soul. Otherwise, with his methods, this old man would have suffered a loss. But, where's the nascent soul holding the mirror magic weapon? Why didn't he show up? Could it be that nascent soul is also Xiao Hua? Oh, that's impossible. That nascent soul clearly escaped from the whirlpool of the Grand Formation. Kong Hongwoo naturally paid attention to the green-robed Xiao Hua who injured him. Unfortunately, how could he see any traces of the formless nascent soul within the Grand Formation? Moreover, seeing that Xiao Hua has already caught up and there are no traces of the nascent soul around him, Kong Hongwoo's heart was relieved. Hall Master Kong is really cunning, Xiao Hua said with some gnashing teeth. At this time, he only has some true chi in his meridians that can be used to temper the metal essence. His entire lower dantian is a mess. Although he has just taken the time to take the heaven mending pill, it's impossible for the heaven mending pill to repair his dantian in a short time. At least when fighting with Kong Hongwoo, Xiao Hua can no longer place his hopes on his lower dantian. Since he doesn't have enough true chi, Xiao Hua can't use the thunder escape technique, nor can he use the wind escape technique. Perhaps Xiao Hua, who is standing on a cloud, can use the ethereal steps in a crisis. Same. Of course, Kong Hongwoo also took out the jade box and took the medicine of Star-Lord Hall. The bloody wounds all over his body healed visibly. However, the damaged profound chi couldn't be recovered quickly. Xiao Hua glanced at the huge whirlpool on the left, then looked at Kong Hongwoo and said indifferently, Hallmaster Kong, only one of us can leave this cave today. Don't worry, that person is definitely me. Kong Hongwoo smiled faintly. Although this old man has suffered a hidden loss, but you don't understand the significance of my Confucian practice of returning the spirit to the void. Kill. Xiao Hua knew that he was pressed for time and didn't say anything else. He urged the auspicious cloud beneath his feet and charged towards Kong Hongwoo. Haha, just an ant. Kong Hongwoo laughed heartily. Multicolored light surged around his body, and an overwhelming aura crazily rushed into his body. His entire body began to flash with inscriptions, and a sub-body soared into the sky, directly transforming into 1,000 feet in size. Without waiting for Xiao Hua's staff to strike, Kong Hongwoo grabbed Xiao Hua's head, as if he wanted to suppress Xiao Hua in the shape of a big hand. Xiaohua immediately understood what Kong Hongwu was thinking when he saw the suffocating aura rushing towards him and the huge palm that was even more powerful than the hand of a nascent soul cultivator, sealing off everything within 100 feet of him. Xiaohua also laughed. Under the heavenly Tao, everyone is an ant. You are no exception. Between the words, the heaven and earth essence qi crazily rushed into Xiaohua's body. The heavenly infusion technique was displayed, and the transcendence golden body was also brought out. Woo! As soon as the golden body came out, a huge fist also crossed the air, meeting Kong Hongwu's big hand. How is this possible? You're lower Dantian. Kong Hongwu naturally didn't understand that Xiaohua's transcendence golden body was actually driven by the heavenly law's embodiment technique. It was done by the monster body, and it had nothing to do with Xiaohua's Taoist cultivation. He couldn't help but be surprised. Xiaohua laughed. Ha ha, old man, my Taoist cultivation technique is endless. How can a Confucian student like you know? Your so-called soul annihilation art can't do anything to this Xiao at all. This Xiao is just deceiving you. While they were talking, there was a loud bang. The fist of the transcendence golden body hit Kong Hongwu's big hand. A huge airwave was set off, and both of their golden bodies were blown back. One of their big hands was dim, and the other's fist was broken into pieces. Woo-woo! The instant Xiaohua's figure retreated, a seemingly rotating flying thorn rushed out from the void below him, shooting towards his heart and lungs. The sharp edge of the flying thorn tore fine lines in the void. Poof! In the nick of time, Xiaohua opened his mouth, and a sword light appeared in the air. The sword light formed a net, and with a series of crackling noises, the palm-sized wheel-piercing imperial weapon was stopped by the sword light. Whoa! At the same time, Bodhi's Buddhist mountain seal struck again. The Buddhist sect's Buddhist seal was just like the Buddhist sect's master. It was very simple, without the slightest bit of fancy tricks. However, it was this most primitive attack that made the Confucian Grandmaster Kong Hongwu feel powerless. Under the mountainous Buddhist seal, everything within 1,000 feet of Kong Hongwu was under the control of this Buddhist seal. Amidst the violent howling of the wind, under the vast impact, one could faintly hear the sound of Sanskrit, and the faint shadow of a heavenly dragon. Kong Hongwu naturally knew that he couldn't avoid the attack of the Buddhist seal with his void transformation technique. While urging the thorns to attack Xiaohua, he grabbed with his hand, and a majestic chi peak of dozens of feet in size appeared in the air. The majestic chi peak was also condensed like a mountain, and rushed towards the Buddhist mountain seal. Just as Kong Hongwu waved the majestic chi peak, a series of strange humming sounds came from behind him. In the humming sounds, thousands of heaven and earth origin chi turned into a hurricane and rushed into a place. The heaven and earth origin chi was so rich that it formed a vortex of dozens of feet in size. As soon as the vortex appeared, a 7-colored brilliance rushed out from it. Wasn't it the Kunlun mirror's light beam? Kong Hongwu was scared out of his wits. He was always on guard against the sneak attack of the green-robed Xiaohua, but he really didn't expect him to secretly touch his back. The Kunlun mirror's light beam was extremely fast. As soon as it appeared, it immediately shot behind him. Moreover, the light beam was different from ordinary Tao sect's magic treasure. It could actually injure a grandmaster who had refined his spirit back to the void. Kong Hongwu hurriedly flashed, wanting to dodge. Boom! The light beam was like lightning, and it had already hit Kong Hongwu's back. Puff! With a muffled sound, Kong Hongwu's huge body was suddenly blasted with a hole of dozens of feet in size. An indescribable pain emerged from Kong Hongwu's heart. Spirit? Spirit weapon? Previously, when the Kunlun mirror hit his star armor, Kong Hongwu didn't feel it. This time, when the light beam hit his body, the light and the brilliance seemed to have a life of its own. The inscriptions that formed his body were broken, rhythmically and with varying degrees. It seemed that it didn't consume excessive heaven and earth origin chi. Kong Hongwu immediately understood after the pain. Not only that, when Kong Hongwu's body was in pain, above his head, Kacha! A fist-sized thunder was like a long winding dragon, crossing the sky and striking the top of his head where he had just dodged. Boom! A corner of the huge head collapsed with a loud bang. The originally clear and ancient big face was extremely embarrassed. Roar! Kong Hongwu roared. A kind of livid ferocity appeared between his elegant eyebrows. Kong Hongwu had been pampered for a long time and had long been accustomed to being respected by others. He had long been accustomed to casually killing others. He didn't know how many years it had been since he had gone all out to fight with others, nor had he been forced to be flustered like this. Kong Hongwu was really ashamed and angry. He was ashamed and angry that he was in a predicament under the attack of the Dao sect cultivator, and even more ashamed and angry that he was at a disadvantage under the hands of a 5th-grade origin Qi cultivator. Take this. Xiao Hua didn't care how Kong Hongwu's heart was hurt by him. With Kong Hongwu's roar, Xiao Hua's golden body rushed forward again. The wishful staff had already turned into 1,000 feet long, stirring up the wind and clouds as it struck down heavily. Draw a circle on the ground. Stay still. Trapped. Kong Hongwu's face was livid, and without hesitation, he shouted 3 inscriptions in a row. As Kong Hongwu's true qi turned into inscriptions and flew out, dense pillars of true qi condensed into thin crystal threads from the space. In the blink of an eye, the space around Kong Hongwu was shrouded in a few hundred feet. The crisscrossing crystal threads surged with a power that made one's heart tremble, like a huge cocoon protecting Kong Hongwu. At the same time, thousands of crystal threads fell from the sky, sealing the space around Xiao Hua. The crystal threads fell more mournfully than the rain, entangling Xiao Hua's hands and feet, binding Xiao Hua's body. What surprised Xiao Hua the most was that these crystal threads carried a rather obvious aura of Dao sect magic, and the power of imprisonment spread over hundreds of feet in the space. Roar! Xiao Hua's arms were naturally entangled by the crystal threads that suddenly appeared. However, Xiao Hua also let out a loud roar. His arms trembled, and the crystal threads were like dust that was shaken off, breaking inch by inch. Woo! Without waiting for Xiao Hua's wishful staff to fall a few more feet, there was a hissing sound like a giant python. A slender and tough true qi belt with crystal threads flashing on the 4 sides, with inscriptions flowing on the surface, came from the void, and fell on Xiao Hua's golden body from all directions. The edge of the true qi belt was like a knife, and the inscriptions were like thorns, flying through the space, drawing a ripple in the space. Oh! Is this what it means to be trapped? Xiao Hua was slightly startled. This qi belt was much faster than the previous vast spirit pillar and crystal thread. As soon as it appeared, it immediately struck Xiao Hua's golden body. Swish swish. Swish swish. Dozens of ear-piercing sounds of friction rang out. Kong Hongwu was once again dumbstruck. He was very clear about the power of the true qi belt, and he didn't know how many cultivators and Confucian scholars had died under it. But at this time, when the true qi belt brushed against Xiao Hua's body, the dark golden brilliance on Xiao Hua's body gradually faded. This brilliance flickered rapidly, and in a moment, all the true qi belt turned into nothingness. Chapter 3657. Demon! Kong Hongwu's eyes narrowed. As far as he knew, only the powerful demon body of the 1,000 demons sacred realm could resist the great spirit belt so easily. It was still one ring after another. Not allowing Kong Hongwu to breathe a sigh of relief, Xiao Hua's wishful staff still fell. Rumble! There was another loud sound, but the inscription cocoon around Kong Hongwu's body shook violently. Cracks appeared on the surface of the cocoon-shaped crystal silk. At the same time, waves of inscription emerged from the cracks and turned into nothingness one by one. Kong Hongwu was finally moved. One after another accidents, a series of dumbfounded finally made him understand the power of the Dao sect cultivator in front of him. Taking a deep breath, Kong Hongwu clapped his hand, and 3 colored clouds gushed out from the top of his head. The clouds turned into blossoms, and the falling petals filled the surrounding space. The power of these clouds was very strong, and it was somewhat similar to the Yingluo of the Shenyuan water control flag. Xiao Hua could tell at a glance that these clouds were Kong Hongwu's lost art. If he didn't use his great divine ability, he wouldn't be able to break through them. Just when Xiao Hua was about to make a move, Kong Hongwu calmed down and said, "Xiao Hua, you really surprised this old man. This old man really didn't expect that in the Dao sect of the hidden immortal continent, there is actually such a strange person like you." Xiao Hua's eyes flashed and looked at Kong Hongwu's left side. On the left side, hundreds of feet high in the sky, Bodhi stood in the air with a Buddhist seal on his hand. His face was full of mercy and there was no fear. On the right side, behind Kong Hongwu, where Xiao Hua himself couldn't see, The green-robed Xiao Hua held the Kunlun mirror and was also ready to attack. Although he had the upper hand in the current situation, Xiao Hua's heart was not optimistic. In the few exchanges just now, he had beaten Kong Hongwu into an extremely sorry state, even injuring his body. That was all done when Kong Hongwu was caught unprepared. Now, Kong Hongwu had already begun to counterattack. Although he had 3 avatars, Kong Hongwu could also use the Great Spirit Belt with his fists and feet, and his mouth could chant inscriptions. He was actually comparable to him. In particular, Kong Hongwu had not used the Imperial equipment at this time. He was afraid that as long as he took it out, he could reverse the situation. I don't dare. Xiao Hua tilted his head to look at the whirlpool that was still rumbling and rotating in the distance, as well as the demon refining gourd that made him tremble with fear below it. The trace of hesitation in his heart still hadn't been removed. He turned his head to look at Kong Hongwu, who was covered in fallen petals, and replied, "This Xiao is merely an insignificant cultivator of the Dao sect. I'm not worthy of the praise of the renowned Star Lord Hall Master." Xiao Hua. Kong Hongwu's voice became kind as he said, "In fact, at this point, you don't need to explain yourself. This old man has already seen it clearly. You must be the hidden hand left behind by the Grand Mist ancestor in his early years. Without his arrangements, it would be impossible for such an outstanding cultivator like you to appear on the hidden immortal mainland." Xiao Hua was non-committal. "This old man knows that you owe the Grand Mist ancestor a great debt of gratitude, and you are unwilling to betray him." Kong Hongwu said again, "However, you really don't understand. This hidden immortal mainland is the hidden immortal mainland of us Confucian cultivators. No matter what realm you cultivate to, even if your strength is on par with the Grand Mist ancestor, you can't contend with us Confucian cultivators. Moreover, this old man will tell you the truth. My Star-Lord Hall is not the Star-Lord Hall of the hidden immortal mainland, but a small hall of the Immortal Palace in the hidden immortal mainland. The Immortal Palace in the hidden immortal mainland has many small halls like the Star-Lord Hall. You, a Dao sect cultivator, will never know the layout of the Immortal Palace in the hidden immortal mainland. Don't talk about you, even this old man only knows the tip of the iceberg. You are a cultivation genius. This old man has really never seen anyone who can cultivate Confucian cultivators, Dao sect, Buddhism sect, and perhaps your diamond body to such a realm. As a cultivator, this old man advises you to give up on the Dao sect. Under the hands of the Grand Mist ancestor, you will definitely not live for more than 1,000 years. You will definitely not reach the peak of cultivation." Kong Hongwu earnestly advised, "Moreover, you have been hit by my Star-Lord Hall's soul-destroying art. Although you don't admit it, this old man knows in his heart that no Dao sect cultivator can be hit by the soul-destroying art without any reaction, not even the Grand Mist ancestor. It is also because of your understatement that the nascent soul in your Dantian has already been destroyed. Anyway, your nascent soul is already gone. Why are you still persisting in going about things the wrong way? If you come to my Star-Lord Hall, this old man can give you a promise right now. This old man will immediately write a letter to the Immortal Palace to give you the position of Deputy Hall Master of Star-Lord Hall. After the Jade Pavilion meeting, if there are no accidents, this old man will complete the Immortal Palace's mission and will be promoted in less than 10 years. This Star-Lord Hall will soon be under your control. With this Star-Lord Hall, Xiao Hua, your Confucian cultivation base, and even your Buddhist cultivation base, can skyrocket. This is a path that leads to the heavens." "Haha, Hall Master Kong." Xiao Hua laughed. "You are shaking this Zhao's Dao heart and destroying this Zhao's Dao foundation. If your words were given to any Dao sect cultivator in the hidden immortal continent, I'm afraid that 8 or 9 out of 10 Dao sect cultivators would wag their tails and beg for mercy, making them bow their heads and submit to you. Unfortunately, this Xiao is one of these 10. Even if this Xiao serves the Grand Mist ancestor, it is not for the Grand Mist ancestor alone. This Xiao is for the Dao sect of the world. Hall Master Kong is a Confucian cultivator. You and I have different Daos, so there is no need to say more. In this great array, there can only be one living person, either you or me." "Tieskese." Kong Hongwu shook his head. He really did not dare to believe that such good conditions could not move Xiao Hua's heart. "Xiao Hua, in fact, you still do not understand. The 3 of you attacked together, although you already have 50% of this old man's strength, but you are still not my opponent." Lamentable, lamentable, pitiful. Kong Hongwu sighed 3 times in a row. His hands touched his chest, and his left hand took out a crystal-clear imperial equipment that was like a water chestnut. Starlight flowed on it, and his right hand took out a several zhong large 6-star shield. He looked at it lovingly and said in a low voice, "Xiao Hua, in this old man's left hand is my Star Lord Hall's imperial equipment, the Imperial Star Piercer. It is the painstaking work of the Immortal Palace's great artificer master. Its power is comparable to your Dao Sect's spirit artifact. This old man has never seen anything that the Imperial Star Piercer cannot pierce. In this old man's right hand is my Star Lord Hall's imperial equipment, the Imperial Shield, also the proud work of the Immortal Palace's great artificer master. In the hidden immortal continent, this old man has never seen a magic artifact that can pierce its defense. Not only is the name unpleasant, it is also contradictory." Xiao Hua sneered. Kong Hongwu's figure swayed twice, and he said with a bitter smile, "This old man also feels that it is contradictory, and this old man also wants to know which of these 2 imperial equipment is more powerful. However, speaking of unpleasant names, the imperial equipment refined by the Immortal Palace's great artificer master should have the word imperial in it. Other imperial equipment cannot have this word, otherwise, it will be overstepping the rules, and immortal soldiers can kill it. Good murderous aura. Good imperial rule." Xiao Hua sneered again. "This old man has not used these 2 imperial equipment for many years." Kong Hongwu ignored Xiao Hua's sarcasm and said indifferently, "Now, you only need to dodge the attack of the Imperial Star Piercer, and this old man will let you live." Kong Hongwu spoke righteously, and at the same time, he used the Confucian cultivator's secret technique of sharp tongue and sword lips, which was quite bewitching. Unfortunately, this kind of trick was seen through by Xiao Hua at a glance, especially. Xiao Hua himself knew Confucian cultivator techniques, and Kong Hongwu was only wasting his breath. Xiao Hua smiled indifferently and said, "Well said, Hall Master Kong. Since Hall Master Kong is benevolent, then this Xiao will also make it clear to Hall Master Kong. This Xiao will also attack, and as long as Hall Master Kong can take it, this Xiao will immediately be captured." When Kong Hongwu heard this, admiration unconsciously appeared in his eyes. His words were only to give Xiao Hua a chance to live, to make Xiao Hua prioritize escaping from the bottom of his heart, and even put all of his attention on how to block his Imperial Star Piercer. This way, Xiao Hua naturally would not think too much about attacking, and Kong Hongwu would not have any danger to his life. Especially since Xiao Hua wanted to defend, it would be very difficult to defend, and he would most likely be injured by Kong Hongwu. As for what would happen after he was injured, Kong Hongwu would not think too much about it for the time being. However, Xiao Hua simply did not pay attention to Kong Hongwu's bewitchment, and also attacked with words. This attack was completely different from Kong Hongwu's. It was an attack to fight with his back to the water, an attack to put himself in death, and had long since shattered Kong Hongwu's bewitching voice. "Xiao Hua, this old man is really unwilling to make a move." Kong Hongwu still did not give up and said. Xiao Hua smiled. "Then Hallmaster Kong, there is no need to make a move. See how this Xiao will kill you." While speaking, wind and clouds surged around Xiao Hua's body, and a thick pillar of qi gushed out from the void, as if it was carrying Xiao Hua, and rushed towards Kong Hongwu. Kong Hongwu could clearly see that there were no clouds under Xiao Hua's feet. Oh, could it be that this guy's dantian is really not damaged? Seeing that Xiao Hua's figure was like a shadow, and his whereabouts were erratic, it was obviously a Taoist escape technique, and Kong Hongwu once again had doubts about his own attack. Rumble! At the same time, Buddha's relic Bodhi waved the clear water bottle in his hand, and a cluster of primordial true water rushed into the air, and rushed towards Kong Hongwu. Similarly, the mountainous Buddhist seal overlapped again, and compared to before, it was several times heavier and smashed towards Kong Hongwu. Haha! It's all useless. Kong Hongwu shrunk, and a shadow appeared on his right arm, and the dense inscriptions on his body rushed into the shield. Along with the appearance of these inscriptions, Kong Hongwu's body suddenly shrank by 40%. Woo-woo! Just like the rumbling of a Taoist magic treasure, a large number of poems rushed out from the shield, and a rhythm of simple recitation rose. Along with this recitation, a large number of poems flew around Kong Hongwu's body rhythmically, forming layers of protection. Not only that, the inscriptions flashed, and a strand of vast crystal silk was born, and a surge of vast spirits surged. Those crystal silk were like the iron bones of the recitation students for millions of years, and that vast spirit was like a copious amount of righteous energy, transforming into fearless students that blocked in front of Kong Honggu. Chapter 3658. The Immortal Palace's defensive weapon, the Imperial Shield, was indeed powerful, but obviously, the cost of using it was not small. Even a cultivator as strong as Kong Hongwu would not easily use it. Woo-woo! Kong Hongwu's Imperial Shield had just been born. Behind Kong Hongwu, the heaven and earth essence chi had also condensed into thin crystal filaments and formed a terrible vortex. Needless to say, the green-robed Xiao Hua was also doing his best at this time. Rumble! Even as the Kunlun mirror condensed its arcane energy, hundreds of enormous thunderbolts still surged and pounced down. Unfortunately, under the thunderclap, hundreds of student auras were destroyed, but soon, even more crystalline threads surged out, and even more clanging students were formed. Hit! Xiao Hua had already approached at this time, and the wishful steel staff had become hundreds of feet long. Countless noble chi also rushed down with the wishful steel staff. It's useless. Kong Hongwu smiled faintly, and still the same sentence, he really had a card up his sleeve. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Bodhi chanted a Buddhist mantra and the primordial true water slammed into the defensive shield, swallowing it whole. Then, the power of the Bodhi Buddhist seal came crashing down. Boom! With a loud bang, the defensive shield that Kong Hongwu thought was impenetrable actually caved in a corner. Kong Hongwu's face changed slightly. Dong! Like a knock on the door, the wishful steel staff fell and the corner of the Imperial Shield shook violently, and the noble crystal filaments turned into ashes. Before the crystal filaments poured out of the Imperial Shield, suddenly, a huge hammer-like spiritual force appeared out of thin air and slammed into the shaking corner of the Imperial Shield. Shwa! The power of Bodhi's seal was more powerful than the power of Bodhi's seal. Thousands of crystal filaments turned into nothingness. Kong Hongwu's face changed greatly. Spiritual hammer. Kong Hongwu almost gritted his teeth and cried out. Kong Hongwu's scream had just come out. Woo-woo! A strange sound, and an aura that made Kong Hongwu frightened emerged from behind him. This time, the beam of light was like a flood, and rushed to the other side of the Imperial Shield in a moment. There was almost no suspense. Under the seven-colored brilliance, the noble crystal filaments were hit by a big hole, and a cluster of brilliance desperately swallowed the crystal filaments and suddenly grew stronger. Kong Hongwu's expression changed dramatically. Damn it! Kong Hongwu cried out in a low voice and hurriedly raised his right hand. Boom! The seven-colored brilliance hit the defense shield, and the shield caved in deeply. Kong Hongwu's body flew out diagonally. Even with the combined efforts of the three heroes, the Imperial Shield was still not completely broken through. It's time to end this. Kong Hongwu sighed. He seemed to have lost his patience. His sub-body, which had lost its balance, waved its left hand. Kong Hongwu's sub-body shrank by 40% again. Waves of inscriptions flowed from his sub-body into the royal star thrust. Rumble. The rumbling sound this time was much deeper than the previous ones, but it was also much more shocking than the previous ones. An aura comparable to a vortex flew out from Kong Hongwu's hand. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth. He understood that Kong Hongwu's attack was aimed at him. If he wanted to fight to the death with Kong Hongwu, he would have to rely on Bodhi and Green Robe. While he was thinking, Green Robe and Bodhi were about to attack. But a scene that shocked Xiao Hua appeared. 3 streaks of starlight flashed in midair and disappeared immediately. The direction of the 3 streaks of starlight was him, Bodhi, and Green Robe. Fatal blow! Kong Hongwu wanted to kill the 3 heroes at the same time. The royal star thrust was really powerful. Xiao Hua had just seen the starlight, but the space in front of him instantly swelled up. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright. This speed was really too fast. His thoughts moved anxiously. At the same time he used the ethereal steps. His left hand, which had been premeditated for a long time, resolutely waved out of thin air. Boom! The starlight was resplendent, and the meteors were like rain. Xiao Hua felt a chill in his heart. It was just like when he saw Xue Xue die for him in the past. His heart was filled with despair. At the same time, in front of Bodhi and Green Robe Xiao Hua, similar streaks of starlight flashed, and two different kinds of heart-wrenching pain came from their two yuan spirits. Bodhi's golden body was hit and a large hole several meters wide appeared. The overbearing inscription quickly swallowed up the broken golden body, and Bodhi's compassionate eyes were filled with pain. Green-robed Xiao Hua's nascent soul was even more miserable. The Kunlun mirror was unable to block the star shuttle in time. As the star shuttle passed through, half of the nascent soul's body disappeared, and pale golden blood gushed out from the remains of the nascent soul. However, Xiao Hua had no time to lower his head to look at the huge black hole in front of his right chest, nor did he have time to care about the life and death of the two primordial spirits. He waved his left hand, and a thick black chi flickered. Black flames surged out from his arm, and a pitch-black demonic saber appeared in his hand. With the appearance of the demonic saber, a kind of world-destroying aura quickly spread throughout the entire space. Kong Hongwu was stunned at first, then shocked, and then laughed loudly, as if he had seen the most ridiculous thing in the world. "Xiao Hua, I'm afraid you've run out of tricks. In this demon refining pot spirit array, you actually dared to use a demon artifact. You're really tired of living." Sure enough, as soon as the demon artifact appeared, the whole space shook. Not to mention the demon refining pot, even the righteous chi in the surrounding space rumbled and surged. Unfortunately, before Kong Hongwu could see the demon refining pot's power, before he could finish speaking, he saw Xiao Hua's body burst with thousands of demon heads, instantly drowning him. The dark demon saber resolutely waved in midair, and Kong Hongwu's vision suddenly went dark. All he could see was the roaring and ferocious demon heads, flashing blood-red eyes, pouncing on him. In the space, a saber chi that was so dark that even light couldn't penetrate directly chopped into the defense of Xiao Hua, Bodhi, and the three green-robed heroes, which was broken through by the joint attack of Xiao Hua, Bodhi, and the three green-robed heroes, splitting Kong Hongwu's subbody, which had already shrunk to a size of several hundred feet, into two halves. Ew! A roaring primordial spirit that was as solid as a real person flew out from Kong Hongwu's subbody. This primordial spirit was the same as Kong Hongwu's subbody and physical body, now split into two halves. Moreover, without waiting for this primordial spirit to escape, the demon saber surged with black chi, which had already drowned this primordial spirit along with its physical body. Just as the demon saber killed Kong Hongwu, the demon refining pot under the huge whirlpool immediately separated a multicolored light from the pot's body, carrying a righteous chi pillar that was thousands of feet high, and directly hit Xiao Hua's golden body. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Even though Xiao Hua's golden body had been tempered for a long time, under this attack, it collapsed as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. A small half of his golden body instantly disappeared without a trace. Xiao Hua's golden body didn't disappear, but when it disappeared, the demonic chi in his body uncontrollably gushed out. Turning around, a huge demonic god Xiao Hua once again appeared in the space. His originally unconscious eyes suddenly opened, and his pupils were completely bloodshot and bloodthirsty. The demons around him screamed at the top of their lungs, trying their best to break out of the black chi's shackles. The demonic chi that Xiao Hua had been suppressing after entering the Jade Pavilion finally broke out at this moment. Boom boom. The righteous chi in the entire space began to boil. Pa 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 sounds could be heard from the places where the demonic chi was exposed. The demonic chi and the righteous chi were entangled in one place, and they were frantically trying to kill each other. Roar! A roar resounded through the space. The demonic saber emitted a saber cry, as if it had seen an irreconcilable enemy. A pitch-black demonic shadow carrying Xiao Hua's demonic body slashed towards the demon refining gourd. Courting death. The green-robed Xiao Hua groaned in midair. However, he understood in his heart that if Xiao Hua's state of mind wasn't good enough, let alone getting close to him, he might even be swallowed by the demonic saber in the end. Glancing at the two imperial equipment with old-fashioned names not far away, the green-robed Xiao Hua reluctantly patted his hand. The Kunlun mirror emitted a faint brilliance and rolled towards the imperial equipment. Whether it was the imperial star stab, the imperial shield, or even Kong Hongwu's Chenkuan pouch, they were all sucked into the Kunlun mirror. At this moment, the suction force within the whirlpool of the demon refining gourd suddenly increased greatly, dragging the green-robed Xiao Hua into the whirlpool. The green-robed Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He hastily opened his mouth and spat out a thin thread of spiritual fire, blocking the front of his body. Then, the Kunlun mirror also emitted a seven-colored brilliance, doing its best to resist the suction force. Evil demons, greedy hearts. Heaven's wrath. Bodhi was also powerless. It was unknown whether he was talking about Xiao Hua, the green-robed Xiao Hua, or the demonic saber. Just as Bodhi's voice fell, the suction force within the whirlpool also took effect on Bodhi, dragging him into the whirlpool. Bodhi's face was filled with astonishment. The Buddhist light around his body flourished as if it was resisting the suction force. "Little monk." The green-robed Xiao Hua beside him called out in a strange tone. "Let's not talk about heaven's wrath or Namo Maitreya first. It's better to control your own life and death first. Fellow Taoist Yu seems to be a bit troublesome. Otherwise, the demon refining gourd's whirlpool wouldn't have such a suction force on us. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. The primordial true water in the clear water bottle can resist the demon refining gourd. Namo Maitreya." Bodhi's damaged golden body flickered like a candle in the wind. When he heard the green-robed Xiao Hua's words, he hastily waved his hand. A wave of primordial true water rushed into the air, protecting both Bodhi and the green-robed Xiao Hua. Then he looked worriedly at the huge demonic saber in the air and sighed. If fellow Taoist Yu wasn't greedy, why would he raise a demonic spirit? If he didn't have a demonic spirit, why would he fear the demonic saber? When fellow Taoist Yu entered the Yaotai mountain, he was affected by the massacre inside the formation. Although he wanted to keep a low profile, he ultimately couldn't. Now, fellow Taoist Yu is being devoured by the demonic saber. Our future is bleak. Perhaps. How could the green-robed Xiao Hua not know? However, at this moment, the two primordial spirits were seriously injured by the star control stab. It would be difficult for them to even protect themselves, let alone rescue Xiao Hua. If I guessed correctly, fellow Taoist Yu was injured by the demon refining gourd. Then, the demonic saber seized the opportunity to take control of his physical body. We'll just have to wait for fellow Taoist Yu to wake up. As he spoke, the demonic saber had already arrived in front of the demon refining gourd. With a pop sound, like an oil lamp exploding, a golden flower flew out of the demon refining gourd. Whoosh! Bands of righteous qi and spiritual qi of heaven and earth rushed into the golden flower. Then, a heavenly general in golden armor appeared from the golden flower. However, this heavenly general in golden armor didn't have a clear face. He held a coiling dragon spear in his hand and thrust it towards the demonic saber. Chapter 36:59. Boom! With a loud explosion, the coiling dragon spear and the golden armor heavenly general were split in half by the demonic saber. The saber mark continued to extend and fell towards the demon refining gourd. Wang wang! The demon refining gourd suddenly trembled and released thousands of clouds and lights. Boom boom! With two consecutive sounds, one hit the demonic saber and the other hit the demon god Xiao Hua. Ka ka! The lights blocked the demonic saber. However, where the demonic qi fell, the lights condensed like glass and shattered into pieces. The demon god Xiao Hua was not so lucky. The demonic qi around his body was destroyed and hundreds of demons were destroyed. A big hole was pierced through his body. Goo goo! Just as the demon refining gourd let out another rumbling sound, the demonic saber suddenly made a strange sound. Then, the entire demonic saber turned into a waterfall and rushed towards the huge and vast whirlpool above its head. Rumble! The entire space let out a loud rumbling sound. The demon refining gourd also moved. The light caught up with the demonic saber and landed on the whirlpool. Then, the mouth of the demon refining gourd strangely produced a huge shadow that covered the entire whirlpool. The light of the whirlpool was extremely beautiful, like a 9-colored snail. The huge light shell was pulled flat and was about to fall into the demon refining gourd. The demonic saber also accelerated and a lightless saber mark instantly landed on a corner of the whirlpool. There was no sound at all and the whirlpool was cut down by 30%. The demons on the demonic saber laughed maniacally and their demonic qi soared into the sky. Before the light of the demon refining gourd could reach it, it wrapped around dozens of Yuanying and pulled them into the demonic saber. Woo woo! The demon refining gourd let out an ear-piercing sound. The remaining whirlpool in the wind inconceivably fell into the fist-sized demon refining gourd. Then, the demon refining gourd soared into the sky and flew towards the starry sky. Roar! The demonic saber actually continued to fight and its demonic qi surged again, wanting to chase and kill. Boom! The demon refining gourd suddenly shot out a 5-colored light. The demonic saber was afraid of this light. Just as it was about to mobilize its demonic chi to surround and suppress it, the light hit Xiao Hua's middle dantian. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A bleak sound of falling flowers was born from the devil god Xiao Hua's body. Strands of noble chi moved upon hearing the wind. This time, it didn't bombard the demonic chi, but instead moisturize and quietly invade the devil god Xiao Hua's body. Swoosh swoosh. Like a trickle, in the sound of water, golden, scarlet, and navy. 3 kinds of brilliance uncontrollably emerged from Xiao Hua's body. The blood-like black flame and the ink-like demonic chi hastily withdrew into Xiao Hua's body. Even the distant demonic saber let out a mournful cry and hastily withdrew into Xiao Hua's left hand like a waterfall. In just the blink of an eye, Xiao Hua's demonic body degenerated and returned to a slender Taoist cultivator. His tightly closed eyes opened and 2 wisps of clear chi emerged from his eyes. Raising his head to look at the sky, a slightly proud voice sounded. 2 immortal friends, why aren't you hurrying back to your positions? Namo Maitreya Buddha. This poor monk thanks immortal friend Confucian cultivator. Bodhi hastily withdrew the innate primordial water and landed on the top of Xiao Hua's head. As soon as he entered the Naiwan palace, he immediately hid inside the exquisite pagoda. All right, I also have to thank immortal friend. The green-robed Xiao Hua shrugged and also landed on the top of Xiao Hua's head. With a somewhat unwilling expression he said, "But I's home is now in a mess, how can I rest?" How could Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua not know what the green-robed Xiao Hua was thinking? He faintly replied, "Immortal friend Yu Ji is currently unconscious. You all are no match for the demonic saber. Our main bodies can only be temporarily controlled by this little one. However, immortal friend can rest assured, this little one will not make the main bodies do anything. As for immortal friend Yu Ji has already taken the heaven-mending pill and the medicinal power in his dantian has already taken effect. If immortal friend still wants to stay in the main body, you can go to his dantian and stimulate the medicinal power. This little one will still send down the 5 chi righteous thunder to help immortal friend recover his nascent soul." Good. The green-robed Xiao Hua stood up and bowed, then disappeared into Xiao Hua's body. At this moment, a huge kacha sound came from above the heads of the primordial spirits. At the place where the devil refining gourd disappeared, layer after layer of cracks fell like thunder. The entire starry sky began to collapse and a kind of heaven-destroying and earth-exterminating aura swept through the entire space. Not good. This great formation is about to be sealed. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua was shocked and anxiously said, "This little one will control the main body and rush out of the great formation." Good. Several primordial spirits all agreed. Kang! The sound of a sword suddenly rang out. The vast chi within the great formation gathered into Xiao Hua's body. Thousands of sword lights were born from the surface of Xiao Hua's body. In a moment, Xiao Hua had already turned into a huge sword and rushed into the chaotic starry sky great formation against the overwhelming desolate aura. Outside the great formation, as Xiao Hua expected, the huge water-type heavenly general was already standing outside the cave with a huge sword in his hand. At this moment, he heard the rumbling sound coming from the cave and waves of destructive aura rushing out from the mountain peak. His expression changed greatly. What is going on? Kong Honggu and that Taisher Zhanran. What the hell are they doing? The heavenly general's face showed doubt and anger. Even if there is a gap between the two, it's impossible for them to have the guts to ruin her senior's important matter. The situation could not get worse. Only the worst. In less than half a cup of tea's time, a huge boom sound rang out. On the mountain peak, the entire mountain peak disappeared with a bang. A gorgeous brilliance soared into the sky. Even the heavenly general was unable to see what was inside the brilliance. That suffocating aura flashed and disappeared. How is this possible? This scorching sun great formation still hasn't ended. That thing. How could it leave by itself? Once that thing left, the scorching sun great formation would collapse by itself. The heavenly general turned pale with fright and muttered to himself, "Damn Kong Honggu. He actually dared to ruin this daddy's work. If her senior blames this daddy will eat you alive." While speaking, the heavenly general did not dare to be negligent. With a clap of his hand, A four-colored brilliance rushed out from the water-form body and chased up into the sky. Boom! The huge body collapsed. Countless amounts of water fell onto the foot of the mountain and slowly flowed into the deep pool. At this moment, the huge rocks on the mountain peak rolled down the mountain slope. In the direction the heavenly general was looking at, within the star formation that was like a scorching sun, there were monstrous flames. Clusters of flames of various colors were like the grass on an ordinary mountain peak, swaying with the wind. Even the ground inside the star formation was covered with layers of fire carpets. From afar, within the undulating flames, there were actually endless mountain peaks. These mountain peaks were also formed by flames. Some of these mountain peaks were straight to the sky, while others were grotesquely shaped, and so on. If not for the heat of the flames distorting the air within the star formation, even if someone accidentally entered, they would never have thought that this was a world of fire. After all, between the mountain peaks, the faint streams of fire still flickered with a dark green brilliance. The gurgling sound of water was also incessant. Some people would believe it if they said it was a celestial scenery. However, at this moment, rumbling sounds were incessantly coming from one of the mountain peaks. It was very abrupt among the monotonous whistling sounds of the flames within the star formation. Bang! Immediately after, there was a loud sound. From a place on the mountain peak, a huge human-shaped fire shadow rushed into the air. A faint blue light followed closely behind and hit the human-shaped fire shadow. The fire shadow immediately solidified, and the red fire shadow turned black and red. Then, a fist of a few feet in size rushed out from the mountain peak and hit the black and red fire shadow. Shwa! The fire shadow suddenly turned into fist-sized fire crystals and fell from the air. As the fire crystals fell, two figures flew out from the mountain peak and stood majestically in the air. The one in front was Zhang Daoran and the one behind was Sun Kong Shangren. Sun Kong Shangren smiled and said, "Brother Daoran, your ice sealing technique has reached the point of perfection. It is very suitable for this formation. This bullshit fire giant is the bane of others, but in your hands, it is our lucky star." Hee hee. Zhang Daoran chuckled slightly, but there was some worry between his eyebrows. He turned his head and looked at where the two came from, but he didn't speak. Sun Kong Shangren waved his hand and said, "Fellow cultivators, whose turn is it? Hurry up and collect the fire crystals." As Sun Kong Shangren's voice fell, a dozen gold core cultivators flew out from the mountain peak behind them. These gold core cultivators were flashing with a faint brilliance, trying their best to resist the flames of the star formation. They all flew to the place where the fire crystals fell and searched carefully. After a while, each of them took a few fire crystals and flew into the sky. They bowed and said, "Thank you for your kindness." "Haha, no need to be so polite." Sun Kong Shangren was very happy. He flicked his sleeves and said, "Inform the fellow cultivators behind to be ready at any time. If there is anything good, wait for me to inform you." "Yes, Junior understands." The dozen gold core cultivators flew back to the mountain peak. After a while, more than 200 cultivators flew out from behind the mountain peak. They were either gold core cultivators or nascent soul cultivators. They stood in the air in a very orderly manner, without a trace of disorder. Seeing Zhang Daoran's worry, Sun Kong Shangren also sighed deeply. He looked behind him and said in a low voice, "Brother Daoran, you don't have to look anymore. It's been almost a year. If Brother Xiao was fine, he would have caught up with us a long time ago." Alas! Zhang Daoran withdrew his gaze and also sighed deeply. He replied, "How could I not know? But I always felt that a strange person like Brother Xiao would not easily fall on this Yaotai mountain. I always want to see a miracle." Miracle? That's a picture painted by the Confucian cultivators for us Taoist cultivators. Sun Kong Shangren was disdainful and complained, "Actually, I don't want to criticize you, but you should have pulled Brother Xiao out of the stone formation at that time." "How could I not want to?" Zhang Daoran's face was filled with regret. But he was unwilling to come out and said that he wanted to save people inside. "How could I delay him? I originally thought that if he didn't come out, I would go in to look for him again. Who knew that the entrance of the star formation could only be left but not entered? It would be even more difficult to find the entrance again." Chapter 3660. Brother Daoran. I was wrong, I shouldn't blame you. Seeing Zhang Daoran so regretful, Venerable Sun Kong hurriedly said with a smile. Everyone has their own luck, Brother Xiao. Is also his own choice, he can't blame anyone. You shouldn't blame yourself too much, otherwise it will affect your Dao heart. Moreover, although Brother Xiao can't be seen anymore, his heart? Or his thoughts, didn't he leave behind? I didn't say it very well, in short, I feel like Brother Xiao is by my side. Venerable Sun Kong actually took the initiative to admit that he was wrong. How was this the Venerable Sun Kong he knew before entering Yaotai Mountain? Zhang Daoran smiled and nodded. You are right. Thinking about the scheming between you and me, I really feel childish. Like a 3 or 4-year-old child. Really boring. Look at now, our words and actions do not go against our hearts, we have given our trust to each other, this feeling is really solid. In the words of the secular world, even sleeping can wake up naturally. Indeed. Venerable Sun Kong looked at the 200 cultivators behind him. Previously, I only felt that the group of cultivators trembling in fear in front of me was my prestige. But now, I feel that it is only their fear of me. It is not sincere admiration and worship. Now, although these cultivators had never sworn loyalty to his little brother, their gratitude was even more heartwarming than any oath. This was something that came from the bottom of their hearts. I also feel especially at ease. Brother Xiao. I am afraid he is not younger than us. If he did not have thousands of years of experience, how could he have so many gains? Compared to what he has seen and heard, I feel that my years have been wasted. Zhang Daoran sighed again. Brother Daoran, there is no need to be like this. Venerable Sun Kong smiled bitterly. We are just concentrating on cultivation. Although we are old, some views are not necessarily correct, and the amount of experience we have is also little. We can't just ruin ourselves like this, right? Sai, no matter what, if cultivation is not counted, I feel that there is a big gap between me and Brother Xiao. Zhang Daoran said as he looked back again. Venerable Sun Kong was quite distressed, and also glanced. This sweep didn't matter, but Sun Kong raised his brows and said urgently, Not good, there are fire crows and flying dragons attacking. Brother Daoran, I'll leave the wyvern in front to you. Leave the rest to me and my fellow Taoists. Good. These fire crows and flying dragons aren't as strong as the flame giants. I can't deal with them alone. Zhang Daoran naturally understood. He nodded and agreed. His Taoist robe flapped, and his figure flew into the sky. He slapped his hand on his head again. A huge wind whistled. A huge blue hand that looked like it was made of crystal expanded to 100 feet in size and grabbed towards the distance. Exalted Master Sun Kong said loudly, Fellow Taoists in the 4th group, set up the formation to lure the enemy. The 2nd and 1st groups will surround and kill the enemy on the left. The 5th and 6th groups will seal off the right. Golden Core cultivators set up formations at low altitudes to kill the injured fire crows and fire dragons. Yes, we will do as you say. The group of cultivators responded in unison. Looking at the fire crows and fire dragons that blotted out the sky, there was no panic on their faces. Each of them very skillfully arranged according to Sun Kong's prior arrangements, setting up the formation to prepare for battle. In a moment, the wind blew above the mountain and flames fluttered. Countless rumbling sounds rose and fell. After fighting for a full hour, the sounds finally stopped. Looking at the cultivators, although they were exhausted and had suffered many casualties, their eyes flashed with a strange light. It was as if they had long understood from this joint battle that if they didn't work as one and didn't share weal and woe, they wouldn't have been able to reach here. Even the Crimson Star Formation and Bright Moon Formation would have left their corpses behind. Quick, look, a shooting star. At this moment, a Golden Core cultivator with a weak cultivation suddenly shouted, pointing at the distant horizon. Everyone was delighted. After all, in the Crimson Star Formation and Bright Moon Formation, the appearance of a meteor was a sign of a rare treasure. In the first 2 formations, everyone was very lucky. They were the closest to the meteor and found the trace of the rare treasure early. Moreover, everyone worked together to resist the attacks of other cultivators before obtaining the rare treasure. This time, the meteor that appeared in the Scorching Sun Formation was far away, but it was obvious that it was the location of the last treasure, the pure young ancestor. If it was before, once they heard the warning of this Golden Core cultivator, all the cultivators would definitely rush out like a swarm of bees. Who would care about others? They wouldn't even forget to kill others on the way. After all, it was the pure young ancestor. Although they didn't know what it was also the last treasure of Star-Lord Palace. It was probably more precious than the green abyss dragon saliva and the cold ghost gall. Let's go. Seeing that the cultivators were waiting for his order, exalted Master Sun Kong smiled slightly and said, "When we get this pure young ancestor, our trip will be complete." Good. The cultivators all applauded and flew into the distance in an orderly formation. When all the cultivators flew away, they saw that behind the fiery clouds in the sky, there was a slight gap, and a beautiful face with a little worry and a hint of joy appeared. Wasn't it the guardian of the scorching sun formation, Sun Chicken Ant Su Churon? Yes, the cultivators of Dao sect have learned how to unite. With this seed of mutual support, Dao sect will not be destroyed. Kong Hongwu's plan. I'm afraid it will fail this time. Gusu Churon praised in a low voice. I just don't know. Who is this Xiao Hua? How could he have such a great influence on Zhang Daoran and Exalted Master Sun Kong? But after listening to Exalted Master Sun Kong, I'm afraid this person has already died in the star formation. Speaking of this, Gusu Churon looked at the meteor in the distance again and shook her head slightly. Unfortunately, the scorching sun formation is not something nascent soul cultivators can break through. If it was the star formation of Yaotai Mountain, I could still be merciful, but here, I am powerless. The Immortal Palace. What are they planning? Do they really want all these Dao sect cultivators to die here? What a sin. While speaking, Gusu Churon's eyes flashed with a sigh. She waved her hand, and the clouds moved. A faint voice came from the depths of the clouds. I can only hope that you can hold on for a year. The meteor streaked across the sky. Finally, with a loud boom, a huge hole appeared in a huge mountain of flames. Then, the meteor shattered. Layers of inscriptions rushed out like a swarm of bees. Waves of awe-inspiring energy rotated in the air. A jade box emitted multicolored rays of light and floated in the volcano. As soon as the jade box appeared, the inscriptions changed under the influence of the light. One by one, the inscriptions quickly decomposed and combined, turning into a wave of fire that rushed down from the volcano. A small part of the inscriptions rushed into the sky like a fountain, covering the space hundreds of feet above the volcano. Then, the entire volcano trembled violently, and all the inscriptions disappeared in the void. Aside from the flames of the volcano and the clouds above the volcano, there was nothing strange. In the time it took to finish a meal, dozens of rays of light crossed the sea of fire and flew closer. Two ferocious divine senses swept over at the same time. One of them landed on the jade box and immediately withdrew, while the other continued to explore the side of the volcano. Several lights landed in front of the volcano, and the first person to appear was a nascent soul cultivator wearing an emperor's robe. This cultivator looked to be in his 30s, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked very mighty, especially the thick arrogance in his eyes, which made people want to retreat. Behind this emperor was the person who withdrew his divine sense. He was only a few feet tall and was the childlike Hua de Zhenren. Hua de Zhenren's eyes revealed a trace of greed, but when he glanced at the nascent soul cultivator in front of him, his face immediately changed to a humble expression. Hua de Zhenren was also a mighty late nascent soul cultivator, but in front of this nascent soul cultivator, his innate temperament was far inferior. Needless to say, even Hua de Zhenren himself felt ashamed of his own inferiority. Fellow Zhai Xing. Hua de Zhenren smiled apologetically. Inside this jade box, I'm afraid the last treasure of this jade pavilion gathering is the pure young ancestor. The previous two treasures appeared too coincidentally. They were actually close to Zhang Daoran and Master Sun Kong, so they took the lead. Now that luck has brought them to you, the last treasure will be yours. This nascent soul cultivator whose temperament was comparable to an emperor was naturally the Zhai Xingzi mentioned by Kong Hongwu. Zhai Xingzi's face showed a trace of a strategist's smile. He looked at the jade box in the distance and then looked at Hua de Zhenren, saying, Fellow Hua de is right. If we can get our hands on this jade box, it will be the end of the Yaotai gathering if nothing unexpected happens. Fellow Daoist, don't worry, I always do what I say. If I can't use this pure young ancestor, I will definitely give it to you. Just like how Sun Kong Shangren gave the cold ghost gallbladder to Zhang Daoran. Yes, thank you fellow Daoist. Hua de Zhenren's face showed a smile. He looked around and didn't see anything strange, but his heart was a little worried. His mission this time was naturally not the pure Yang ancestor, but to kill Xiao Hua. Unfortunately, he had been searching for nearly a year, but there was no trace of Xiao Hua. Even if he wanted to kill him, he couldn't. He couldn't explain it to Kong Hongwu of Star-Lord Palace. Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong Shangren led nearly 200 cultivators, most of whom were Yuanying realm cultivators. Zhai Xingzi and Hua Dezhenren led dozens of cultivators, most of whom were Yuanying realm cultivators. The rest of the cultivators were led by 3 or 4 middle-stage Yuanying realm cultivators. However, most of them were Jindan realm cultivators, and their strength was much weaker. The rest of the cultivators who were not in these 10 groups were all Yuanying realm cultivators. They were proud and aloof. Even if they gained nothing, they did not want to join hands with others. Chapter 3661. Of the nearly 700 nascent soul cultivators, more than half of them had perished in the Yaotai meeting. It was far more than the previous Jade Pavilion gathering. As for the Jindan cultivators, they were even more miserable. Those below the middle stage of the Jindan stage were basically dead, and only 40% of the late stage of the Jindan stage were left. These Jindan cultivators didn't dare to break through the formation by themselves. They all followed the nascent soul cultivators and didn't dare to leave. Now, these Jindan cultivators only had one wish in their hearts, and that was to quickly end this damn Jade Pavilion gathering. As soon as the Dragon Gate opened, they would definitely be the first to rush out regardless of everything and never come to Jade Mountain again. Even if they were beaten to death, they would never come again. In fact, the Taoist cultivators were indeed tragic, but there was a big gap between this and what Kong Hongwu had imagined. The nascent souls of these nascent soul cultivators who had died were really not commensurate with the large investment of the Immortal Palace. Most of the credit should be given to Xiao Hua for the Dao cultivators to be able to survive. Not to mention that Xiao Hua restrained Star-Lord Palace, not to mention that Xiao Hua killed 3 Star-Lords, not to mention that Xiao Hua personally saved so many nascent soul and Jindan cultivators. Xiao Hua was able to use his Dao heart to move Sun Kong Shangren and Zhang Daoran, which was already the greatest thing. This kind of move was imperceptible, like the spring wind and rain, causing Sun Kong Shangren and Zhang Daoran to go from hostility and suspicion to mutual recognition and cooperation. Not only did the two of them not die, but they also protected dozens of nascent soul cultivators around them from dying. Influenced by them, the other nascent soul cultivators who were also suspicious began to follow suit. These nearly 10 groups of cultivators gradually formed and fought together in the bloody storm of the past year. Of course, the most important thing was that Xiao Hua killed Kong Hongwu. Kong Hongwu's plot to kill all the nascent soul cultivators in the Scorching Sun formation couldn't be carried out. Otherwise, even if Zhai Xingzi and the others came here, they still wouldn't be able to survive. Fire de Zhenren looked around and whispered, "Fellow Zhai Xingzi, let's hurry up and do it. This is the rhythm of the early bird getting the first bite." "All right." Zhai Xingzi readily accepted the suggestion and waved his hand. "Fellow Taoists, let's surround this volcano. First, we'll act according to our previous formation and attack together. Whoever gets the jade box first, regardless of whether it's me or fellow Taoist Huade, we'll give that fellow Taoist something of equal value. Second, even if we can't get it for now, we'll be able to block the cultivators who come here in the future. Yes, we'll listen to fellow Taoist Zhai Xing's orders." The dozens of nascent soul cultivators responded in unison. They moved their bodies and surrounded the entire volcano in a short while. At the same time when everyone had just surrounded him, several divine senses had already swept over from afar. They were the other surviving Dao sect cultivators, including Zhang Daoran, Sun Kong, and the others. "Do it." Zhai Xingzi's face turned serious. He knew that he didn't have much time left, so he waved his hand and ordered. Buzz! Buzz! Waves of magic treasures rumbled. The dozens of nascent soul cultivators each activated their natal magic treasures. The brilliance of the magic treasures was exceptionally dazzling, completely enveloping the entire volcano. The originally blazing volcano suddenly froze at this moment, as if it was suddenly frozen by a cold wind. The inscriptions floating in the flames also stopped in mid-air, like falling leaves frozen in a fiery red crystal. Boom! All kinds of magic treasures landed, causing a huge tremor. The mountain that was originally condensed from flames was suddenly hit until it shrunk. The full inscriptions melted layer by layer and were annihilated piece by piece under the power of the magic treasures. It was as if boiling water was poured onto snow. There was no resistance at all. Great! Zhai Xingzi was overjoyed. He activated his magic treasures and the multicolored light around him shone brightly. As he reached out his hand, a dragon-shaped brilliance rushed towards the fire mountain. In the blink of an eye, it was about to land on the jade box. But at this moment, the corner of Huada's eyes twitched slightly, as if he had sensed something. However, he smiled faintly. His eyes flashed with a hint of mockery, but he didn't say anything. Ka ka ka. The sound of a rat gnawing on a table leg at night rang out. Layer after layer of inscriptions suddenly appeared in front of the cultivators. Each of the inscriptions emitted a solemn sound. When the sound gathered together, it actually caused the nascent soul cultivators to become absent-minded. Following the appearance of the inscriptions, strands of noble spirit condensed into the shape of crystal threads rushed out of the void and landed on the inscriptions. The inscriptions were like budding flower buds. The inscriptions that formed chapters were like rows of flower walls. However, the flower buds were fatal, and the flower walls were engraved with the names of the deceased. Boom boom boom. As the inscriptions exploded one by one, the waves of energy instantly drowned all the cultivators. Zhai Xingzi's cloud hand also couldn't escape the calamity. With a boom, inch by inch it broke apart. Not good. Zhai Xingzi shouted. How could this happen? When Zhang Daoran and the others took the jade box, it didn't appear like this. Zhai Xingzi was shocked. He hurriedly retreated. At the same time, he activated his divine sense. Thousands of starlight appeared from the top of his head and turned into a huge hand that grabbed the exploding inscriptions. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The huge hand fell. The inscriptions around the volcano also emitted a roaring sound. The noble spirit crystal threads exploded with great power. As soon as the huge hand touched the inscriptions, it was immediately blown apart by the noble spirit crystal threads. Fellow Taoist Huada, come and help me. Zhai Xingzi saw that Huada Zhai Xingzi was still activating an ordinary magic treasure. He couldn't help but frown and hurriedly called out. How could Huada Zhai Xingzi be willing to help? But now he had to act. Huada Zhai Xingzi shouted, Fellow Taoist Zhai Xing, don't worry. I will help you. As he spoke, Huada Zhai Xingzi also activated a huge hand that was condensed from flames. Its position was exactly opposite of Zhai Xingzi's. Of course, Huada Zhai Xingzi's hand was not as big as Zhai Xingzi's. The moment it touched the inscriptions, it immediately collapsed. Ah! At this moment, a nascent soul cultivator suddenly screamed. Above the volcano, a vast white gas rushed out and covered the nascent soul that had lost its physical body. It instantly dragged the nascent soul into the volcano and disappeared. Puff puff. After a nascent soul cultivator died, the other nascent soul cultivators also endured the most difficult stage. They all activated their magic power and used their divine sense to escape from the attack of the inscriptions. When these cultivators came out, the terrifying inscriptions gradually disappeared as if they had never existed. The volcano that had been hit until it lost its light was now waving its fangs and brandishing its claws. As he looked at the group of cultivators with ghastly pale faces and the damaged magic treasures in their hands, a bitter taste arose in Zhai Xingzi's mouth. He understood in his heart that this last treasure was absolutely not as easy to obtain as the previous two. Zhai Xingzi wanted to give up, but he couldn't say it. This was not only a matter of face, but also a matter of life and death. Even if he didn't take this treasure, the Jade Pavilion Gathering's Dragon Gate would not open. They still had to stay here. Ha ha ha. Sun Kong Shongren's mocking voice came like a wave. You dare to go to the volcano without 3 inches? You're just a bunch of useless people. Yet you want to covet the 3 great treasures? Are you defeated? If you can't, then quickly move aside and let this old man take it. Sun Kong Shongren's words really made Zhai Xingzi blush because these were the words he mocked Sun Kong Shongren when he first failed to take the treasure. However, Sun Kong Shongren then successfully took the jade box with Zhang Daoran. Now, Sun Kong Shongren was just returning the original words. Sun Kong Shongren's voice had already arrived, but he was still far away. Huada Zhai Xingzi heard it and his heart tightened. The first people he found were Sun Kong Shongren and Zhang Daoran. Unfortunately, Zhang Daoran didn't care about Hua Dezhai Xingzi joining, but Sun Kong Shangren was extremely disgusted with Hua Dezhai Xingzi. That kind of disgust was undisguised on his face. Hua Dezhai Xingzi was also a late Yuanying stage cultivator. How could he bear this? After a few words, he flicked his sleeves and left. In his heart, he was extremely contemptuous of this group of people who were only a few dozen at that time. But what made Hua Dezhai Xingzi surprised was that more and more people gathered around Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong Shangren, and more star formations were broken. Just as Hua Dezhai Xingzi was about to coldly watch these two people being killed by Star-Lord Palace, they unexpectedly took two treasures. At this time, Hua Dezhai Xingzi almost suspected that Kong Hangu of Star-Lord Palace had changed his nature and began to favor the Taoist cultivators. However, whether it was the Crimson Star Great Formation or the Bright Moon Great Formation, the casualties of the Taoist cultivators didn't seem to be his guess. Therefore, Hua Dezhai Xingzi slightly shifted his target from killing Xiao Hua to the treasures. As for Zhai Xingzi, to be honest, Hua Dezhai Xingzi just wanted to make use of him. When Xiao Hua appeared, or when Xiao Hua was fighting with him for the treasures, he could borrow Zhai Xingzi's power to kill Xiao Hua. Zhai Xingzi was a little embarrassed. He looked at the jade box on the volcano in the distance, and then looked at the group of cultivators who were greatly injured. He thought about whether to continue or not. After all, before Sun Kong Shangren and the others arrived, they still had enough time to attack again. Fellow Zhai Xing, what are you hesitating for? If we don't attack now, when Zhang Daoran and the others arrive, how will we have a chance? Hua Dezhai Xingzi urged from the side. Zhai Xingzi nodded. Fellow Zhai Xingzi is right. Previously, I didn't succeed. Now it's up to you. When Hua Dezhai Xingzi heard this, he felt like vomiting blood. However, what Zhai Xingzi said was also right. Even if it was a round, it would still be his turn to attack. Hua Dezhai Xingzi smiled. He already had a plan in mind. He nodded and said, Fellow Zhai Xingzi is right. I also want to lead everyone to succeed. Unfortunately, my life source magic treasure was stolen by that bastard Xiao Hua. I only managed to stay alive by fleeing with all my might. Today, even if I use all of my magic power, I still won't be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with fellow Zhai Xingzi. How about this? Fellow Zhai Xingzi, we don't have much time. This time we must succeed in one strike. There can't be the slightest mistake. I'll be the main force, and fellow Zhai Xing will be the support. Why don't we attack together? Chapter 3662. After listening to Hua Da Immortal's suggestion, Zhai Xingzi pondered. Hua Da Immortal had said this before and he had already regarded Xiao Hua as the scum of Taoism. Since Hua Da Immortal did not have his natal magic treasure, his supernatural power would naturally be weakened. He would not be of much help. If it was before, he could take a few steps back and let Hua Da Immortal try. But this time, he really did not have much time. Even if he had some grudges in his heart, he could only compromise. Okay. Zhai Xingzi nodded and pointed to the opposite side. Hua Da Immortal will go to the opposite side. We will attack from both sides. Who is it? At this moment, Zhai Xingzi's eyes suddenly overflowed with faint starlight. He raised his head and looked at the clouds that were covered by flames in the distance. Between the two clouds, half of a face that was either angry or happy flashed past. Ah! Zhai Xingzi's heart felt as if it was struck by lightning. Instantly, his body became light and he could not breathe. It was as if thousands of mountains and ravines were stuffed into his chest. This face is so familiar. This person is so attractive. This person. Where have I seen him before? Zhai Xingzi's mind was turned upside down. He tried his best to find the memory of this half of the face. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he could not find the origin of this half of the face. However, the bitterness in his heart clearly told him that this person. He knew this person and this person was deeply engraved in his heart. Fellow immortal Zhai Xingzi? Hua Da Immortal did not see that half of the face, but he was a little panicked. He naturally knew that the scorching sun array was guarded by the celestial lords of Celestial Lord Palace. He did not know who the celestial lord above the clouds was, but he had a vague feeling that this celestial lord was probably Kong Hongwu himself or someone sent by Kong Hongwu to check on his performance. Therefore, he hurriedly reminded him. You. What's wrong with you? No. Nothing. Zhai Xingzi's heart could not help but beat wildly. He could not calm down for a moment. This was rare for a cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul stage. Zhai Xingzi's answer was somewhat perfunctory. Zhai Xingzi frowned. Hua Da Immortal was a little relieved. He smiled and said, if there's nothing, we will prepare to set up the formation now. Zhai Xingzi was still a little absent-minded. Hua Da Zhenren muttered in his heart. He looked at the clouds in the sky and flew to the other side of the volcano. Behind the clouds, Gusu Churon's face was red and her hands were trembling. There was a strange look in her eyes and her heart was pounding. Who is this cultivator from the Taoist sect? How did he discover me? Even a cultivator of the 5th grade of essence energy wouldn't be able to notice my appearance. How can he see me at a glance? Moreover, why is his appearance so familiar? How could I have such a deep impression of a Taoist cultivator? Gusu Churon couldn't help but blush at this thought. She was just as surprised as Zhai Xingzi. As a woman, she was far more sensitive to this feeling than Zhai Xingzi. Because of this, she was far more confused than Zhai Xingzi. After all, Zhai Xingzi's glance was truly shocking. Gusu Churon just showed her face and Zhai Xingzi was already moved. This was definitely not an ordinary Taoist cultivator spell. Seeing Hua Da Zhai Xingzi and Gusu Churon fly away, a cultivator standing not far from Zhai Xingzi hurriedly transmitted his voice. Fellow Taoist Zhai Xing, I have something to say but I don't know if I should say it. Zhai Xingzi calmed himself down and nodded. Oh, fellow Taoist Withered Tree, you and I are in the same boat now. Just say it. The cultivator named Withered Tree thought for a moment and said, I'm worried about Hua Da Immortal. I feel like he is hiding something. Zhai Xingzi's expression didn't change and said faintly, fellow Taoist, just say it. I believe fellow Taoist knows what a life-bound magic treasure is just like me. How could it be taken so easily? And from what Hua Da Immortal said, Xiao Hua's cultivation is higher than his. But why haven't we seen him yet? If that Xiao Hua had already fallen within this defensive formation, then how did he, Taoist Hua Da, escape? Taoist Withered Tree did not say much, and only pointed out this one sentence. Zhai Xingzi sighed and looked at Hua Da Immortal. After all, he is a Taoist cultivator. At this time, I have no choice but to believe him. Although I know he might want to use our power to achieve his goal, now is the time to join hands. But rest assured fellow Taoist Withered Tree, if there is anything wrong with Hua Da, I'll be the first to kill him. Withered Tree Taoist nodded and looked at the cultivators in the distance and sighed. Our magic power is almost exhausted and we are also exhausted. This last rare treasure. A trace of displeasure flashed across Zhai Xingzi's face and he said, Confucian cultivators have a saying, the first drum is the best, the second is the worst, and the third is the worst. We have only just attacked for the second time. How can fellow Taoists say we are defeated? Zhai Xingzi was displeased and his majesty was revealed. Withered Tree Taoist's heart skipped a beat and he didn't dare to say anything more. He closed his mouth and began to channel his magic power. Zhai Xingzi flew forward and said with a smile, Fellow Taoists, we have already seen the power of this defense formation. But as the saying goes, the first drum is the best, the second is the worst, and the third is the worst. This defense formation is the same. When we are tired, the power of the defense formation will also decrease. What is placed in front of us is our last chance. We must seize it. Of course, like before, I still have to remind all of you that if something is wrong, immediately retreat. There is no need to fight like a cornered beast. Your lives are the most important. No matter how precious this rare treasure is, it is still an external object. Yes, we understand. Once Zhai Xingzi spoke, everyone's heart trembled. This kind of innate majesty was not something that could be cultivated later on. However, before they could set up the formation again, Zhang Daoran, Venerable Sun Kong, and the others had already turned into rainbows and arrived. In other directions, several cultivators also flew over and stood in midair. It had to be said that these Taoist cultivators had learned a lot from this Jade Pavilion meeting. They didn't rush forward to snatch the treasures like before, nor did they plot against them. They all abided by the established rules and quietly waited for Zhai Xingzi and the others to make their last attempt. Seeing that Venerable Sun Kong was still mocking them just now but was now standing obediently by Zhang Daren's side, Zhai Xingzi suddenly sighed with emotion. It seemed that he should also be standing there. Zhai Xingzi. Venerable Sun Kong saw Zhai Xingzi looking at him and said coldly, "This is your last attempt. If you fail, it will be my turn. There is no chance for you to wait." Zhai Xingzi also retorted. On the other hand, Zhang Daoren looked around and looked at the last surviving cultivators. He said, "Fellow Taoist Zhai Xingzi, actually, I don't think you guys will succeed. You have to try first." Zhai Xingzi didn't wait for Zhang Daoren to finish and immediately interrupted him. He said coldly, "If I fail, you will succeed?" Zhang Daoren wasn't angry. He smiled and said, "To tell you the truth, I don't have the confidence either." Zhai Xingzi was a little confused. He didn't understand what Zhang Daoren meant. Zhang Daoren raised his voice and said, "Fellow Taoist, we all saw your first attempt. Since you failed the first time, you may not succeed the second or third time. Besides, this flame formation is the next stage of the Jade Pavilion meeting. The Confucian cultivators of Star Lord Palace definitely won't let us pass easily. If we don't gather our strength and break the formation together, I'm afraid there will be many fellow Taoists who will die here." "I understand what you mean." Zhai Xingzi was a little tempted. He indeed didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. However, at this moment, Perfected Huide said from afar, "Fellow Taoist Zhai Xingzi, I am ready. We can begin now." "Humph." Exalted Sun Kong snorted and said, "Zhai Xingzi, if you want to die, then hurry up and do it." Zhai Xingzi's face turned cold. He slapped his forehead, and a star-shaped artifact soared into the sky. The starlight twinkled and countless qi of heaven and earth gathered. Hiss! Exalted Sun Kong saw this and sucked in a breath of cold air. He transmitted his voice to Zhang Daoren. "Brother Daoren, this Zhai Xingzi seems to have reached the peak of 4th grade essence force. I'm afraid he won't lose to you." Zhang Daoren smiled proudly. Zhai Xingzi's artifact is the falling star. It is known as the artifact closest to a spirit artifact in the Dao sect. My artifact can't compare. Ha ha! Exalted Sun Kong laughed loudly. How could he not know the meaning behind Zhang Daoren's words? Exalted Sun Kong's laughter had just sounded when Zhai Xingzi's artifact, the falling star, turned into a fist and smashed towards the volcano. On the other side of the volcano, Hua de Zhenren also activated his flaming hand, and together with Zhai Xingzi's fist, they attacked the jade box on the volcano. Seeing this, the other cultivators hurriedly activated their magic power again. Right at this moment, something strange happened again. Boom boom! A huge sound came from the mountain of flames in the distance. Before everyone could turn their heads to look, a terrifying aura suddenly came from that place. Not only did all the cultivators tremble and fall a few feet, even half of the flames in the scorching sun grand array were extinguished by this aura. Set up the array. Exalted Sun Kong saw the opportunity quickly and roared. He thought it was Star Lord Hall's killer. Before Zhang Daoren and the other cultivators could fly, they saw a huge light pillar soar into the sky. It passed through the flames and the clouds in the sky and disappeared. This is. Everyone saw that the fear disappeared along with the light pillar like a receding tide. They were very puzzled. However, Zhang Daoren and the others set up the array. The other cultivators also set up the array and were on guard. Rumble! Just as the light disappeared, the entire scorching sun formation began to tremble again. Volcanoes collapsed one after another. Clouds turned into streams of fire and fell from the sky. Forests turned into fiery ponds that spiraled in the air. Everyone turned pale with fright. They were somewhat at a loss. Chapter 3663. Zhang Daren's expression also changed when he saw such a huge change in the array. He scanned the array with his divine sense and exchanged glances with Venerable Sun Kong. Both of their eyes were filled with bitterness. This time, the collapse of the array was a little different from the previous one. It was completely disorderly and there was no trace to speak of. Moreover, their divine senses had just scanned a few miles when they were immediately defeated by the aura of the collapse. They couldn't go far. Even if they wanted to escape, they would be like headless flies. Oh no! Before they could withdraw their divine senses, the entire space was torn apart. Their divine senses were also cut off in the broken space. Zhang Daoran and Venerable Sun Kong's divine senses were damaged. Their faces were pale. They hurriedly waved their hands and wanted to escape with the other cultivators. At this moment, a loud sound came from beside them. They quickly turned around and saw the volcano where the jade box was located collapse. The space around the volcano was broken and shattered like glass. Thousands of inscriptions surged out of the void. These inscriptions were immediately torn into pieces by the space cracks before they could trigger the noble spirit. Ha ha! While the other cultivators were at a loss, Zhai Xingzi let out a wild laugh. The big hand formed by the starlight grabbed the jade box that was flowing with the fire in the volcano. Layers of extraordinary colors bloomed from the jade box. Good! Venerable Sun Kong couldn't help but praise. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. After all, they had obtained the last rare treasure. The Jade Pavilion gathering was about to end. The dragon gate that would send everyone out would inevitably appear. This collapsing space would naturally stop. Ah! Just as everyone's heart settled, they heard Zhai Xingzi's miserable scream. A space crack appeared out of nowhere between Zhai Xingzi's big hand and instantly cut the big hand apart. Zhai Xingzi's expression changed drastically. Whoa! Hua de Zhenren reacted quickly. The flaming hand hurriedly grabbed the jade box that Zhai Xingzi had let go. Zhai Xingzi helplessly waved his hand and the falling star turned into a speck of starlight and flew back to Zhai Xingzi's eyes. Zhai Xingzi's miserable scream caused everyone's hearts to skip a beat. Because the dragon gate was gone and the space was still collapsing, their way out did not appear. What's going on? At this moment, Zhang Daoran was no longer interested in any treasures. All he wanted to do was to escape. The hundreds of cultivators around him were the same. Unfortunately, the collapse of the scorching sun formation was far beyond their expectations. Spatial cracks appeared one after another, turning the formation into pieces. They gradually separated from each other, and even became further and further apart. Waves of inscriptions and clusters of flames rushed out again, blocking everyone's line of sight. Ah! A golden core cultivator was caught in the flames in a panic. He screamed as his body was corroded. The flames quickly killed him. Immediately afterward, several more golden core disciples were killed by the spatial rifts. They didn't even have the chance to scream. At a place several miles away from Zhang Daoran, Taoist Yuan Qing, Hong Songzi, and Hai Hongzi were watching from afar with a group of gold core disciples. These three nascent soul cultivators had already reached an agreement outside of Yaotai Mountain, and they had also refined a type of joint offensive magical item. Therefore, after they met up with the Crimson Star Grand Formation, they had enough power to protect themselves. After that, they gathered another group of gold core cultivators and rushed here. Naturally, they wouldn't covet the rare treasure anymore. They just wanted to follow Zhang Daoran and get out of the Yaotai gathering safely. Taoist Yuan Qing did not have time to identify where the gap led to and was about to rush in. At this moment, a strange sword sound came from the clouds below him, and then it became quiet. In a moment, the crimson cloud surged violently, and a slender figure rushed out from the clouds. Xiao! Taoist Xiao? Taoist Yuan Qing's face lit up when he saw the familiar appearance and figure. He hurriedly flew over. However, before he could reach Xiao Hua, Taoist Yuan Qing stopped in his tracks. This was because Xiao Hua was lying on top of the clouds as soon as he rushed out. His eyes were tightly shut, and there was no breath coming from his mouth or nose. Moreover, his face was pale, and his Taoist robe was in tatters. There were clearly several wounds on his exposed skin that went deep into his body. Xiao Hua was seriously injured. Seeing that Xiao Hua was seriously injured, the joy on Taoist Yuan Qing's face disappeared and was replaced by an extremely strange green and red color and hesitation. Xiao Hua, wake up. Taoist Yuan Qing did not go to help but called out in a low voice. Unfortunately, Taoist Yuan Qing called out a few times but Xiao Hua did not respond at all. Taoist Yuan Qing saw this and bit his lips. His eyes narrowed and the halberd in his hand faintly glowed. Little Confucian cultivator, what are you doing? Inside Xiao Hua's body, the the green-robed Xiao Hua controlled his nascent soul to repair his dantian. He was shocked when he saw the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua actually withdrew his sword form and fell here. You know Jade Archive Xiao Hua is somewhat guarded against this bastard. How can you expose our true bodies in front of him? Heh. This is called loosening the reins only to grasp them better. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua said proudly. Fellow immortal Jade Archive Xiao Hua doesn't know what this bastard is thinking, right? You don't know whether his actions in the defensive formation are friend or foe, right? If he makes a move this time, won't the truth come to light? Rest assured, fellow immortal green robe, how can he injure our true bodies with his cultivation alone? Xiao Hua. Taoist Yuan Qing clenched his teeth and roared as if he had made a decision. But he moved his hand and then stopped. After all, Xiao Hua had already played dead twice in front of him. How could he dare to take the risk after killing Jing Muhu and Taoist Chu? After thinking for a while, Taoist Yuan Qing carefully took out a jade bottle from his bosom and said in a low voice, Taoist Xiao, I have some healing pills here. As he spoke, he walked toward Xiao Hua's body. The tip of the small halberd in his hand was pointed at Xiao Hua's forehead. Damn it! Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua cursed. This bastard is too cunning. What is he trying to do? Alas, Confucian cultivator, you and I are fellow Taoist Jade Archives clones after all. We don't know much about human nature. The green-robed Xiao Hua sighed. Don't think about it. Just kill him. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's tone was rather regretful. Although he was well-read and thoughtful, his understanding of human nature was much worse than Xiao Hua's. Don't worry. Suddenly Sub-Hoodie, who had been hiding in the exquisite pagoda all this time, shouted, There's a good show. Good. The green-robed Xiao Hua smiled. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua also praised, It's fate that brought us together. Sure enough, just as Taoist Yuan Qing was about to approach Xiao Hua's body, another gotcha sound rang out. Several cracks appeared in a corner of the space fragment, causing it to collapse. At the same time, another fragment was connected to this one. Taoist Yuan Qing suddenly raised his eyebrows. He looked at the space fragment that had just rushed over with great vigilance. His figure hastily flew back and landed in the gap that had just collapsed. Ouch! Just as Taoist Yuan Qing left, a woman with flames burning on her body staggered and flew down from the distance. Wasn't this the extremely beautiful Fairy Jing that Xiao Hua had seen before? Fairy Jing landed on the clouds. Her body was slanted as if she was injured. At the same time, a multicolored light appeared on her palm and was about to fall on the flames on her body. However, when Fairy Jing's gaze fell on the unconscious Xiao Hua's face, she even forgot about extinguishing the fire. She cried out in alarm. Xiao Hua! Carrying the flames on her body, she rushed to the side of the clouds. Tieskese. Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua smacked his lips and said with admiration, We've only met a few times. It can't be this bad. With that, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua opened his mouth and a stream of true qi rushed out from somewhere in Xiao Hua's body and landed on Fairy Jing's body. The inscriptions on the flames were shattered by this true qi and the flames extinguished themselves. Fairy Jing landed beside Xiao Hua and didn't hesitate to place her white hand on Xiao Hua's lower dantian. This made the green-robed Xiao Hua hesitate. Xiao Hua himself would never allow others to inspect his dantian like this. However, Fairy Jing was very concerned and worried about Xiao Hua, which made the green-robed Xiao Hua hesitate. During this moment of hesitation, Fairy Jing's true qi landed on Xiao Hua's dantian. Ah! Fairy Jing was dumbfounded. Her face was filled with disbelief because the green-robed Xiao Hua had intentionally placed that true qi on the part of his dantian that hadn't been repaired. How could Fairy Jing not know what it was like for a late-stage nascent soul cultivator to have his dantian shattered and his nascent soul missing? A kind of sadness and discomfort appeared in Fairy Jing's heart. Her eyes were somewhat red. Zhai Xingzi laughed and waved his hand. Fairy Jing and Xiao Hua passed through the crowd and landed on the Rainbow Bridge. Xiao Hua! Taoist Huada bit his lips and fiercely looked at Xiao Hua. An indescribable feeling arose in his heart. He couldn't help but want to fly up. Oh, brother Xiao, you're still alive? Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong were both doubtful. Seeing Xiao Hua suddenly appear with Fairy Jing, they were pleasantly surprised and immediately flew onto the Rainbow Bridge. With Xiao Hua here, they had an indescribable confidence. Daoist Xiao has come. The group of nascent soul cultivators and gold core cultivators behind Zhang Daoran were all boiling with excitement. Those who had seen Xiao Hua's great display of invincible might within the rockfall formation all rushed onto the Rainbow Bridge one after another. Those who hadn't seen him before had long since been talked about by these cultivators to the point that calluses grew on their ears. Seeing Xiao Hua, who was more powerful than Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong, leave, how could they still stay? Xiao Hua. Daoist Huada clenched his teeth and also helplessly braced himself to fly onto the Rainbow Bridge. He knew in his heart that although this wasn't Kong Hongwu's Dragon Gate, since others had gone up, he could not go up. However, he was still curious. What exactly was this Rainbow Bridge? If he was in danger, would Kong Hongwu help? The Rainbow Bridge didn't move and stabilized the collapse of the blazing fire formation. Zhai Xingzi and the others rushed into the black hole and quickly disappeared. After all the cultivators had left, Gusu Qiuran also appeared from the clouds. She turned to look at the fire and debris under her feet and clapped her hands. A cloud fell from the sky and a moment later, a woman in a Taoist robe flew out from the cloud. A broken star armor fell from the cloud. When Gusu Qiuran landed on the Rainbow Bridge, the Rainbow Bridge slowly shrank and disappeared into the black hole. Gusu Qiuran silently looked at the collapsing formation and frowned. She was very surprised. Kong Hongwu, where did he go? Could it be that something big happened to Star-Lord Palace? Right now. I'm afraid this is the best time for me to escape from Star-Lord Palace. When Gusu Qiuran's figure disappeared, the blazing sun formation began to boil and collapse again. There was indeed no one inside the formation, whether it was Taoist cultivators or Star-Lord Palace's immortal soldiers. However, Gusu Qiuran was wrong. She knew that the scorching sun formation was set by the immortal generals of the immortal palaces. The Confucian cultivators of Celestial Lord Hall, from Kong Hongwu to the Celestial Lord guarding the formation, couldn't pry into it. Thus, she boldly used the so-called peach zombie Li Meng to escape. However, she didn't know that after the Lianyao pot escaped, the formation under Yaotai Mountain had already collapsed and the connection between the sun, moon, and star formation was gradually disappearing. On the Yaotai Mountain, within the palace, Linghu Pairan was standing before the mirror with an indifferent expression. Although the things on the mirror appeared to be rather indistinct, Linghu Pairan was holding his chin with one hand. He was looking at all of this in a very thought-provoking manner. His eyes contained a sneer, confusion and even a trace of concern. The light from the Lianyao pot rushed out of Yaotai Mountain and quickly disappeared into the void. The Heavenly General's primordial spirit shadow followed behind like a real person. When it reached the sky, it opened its mouth and a palm-sized imperial equipment flew out. This imperial equipment was in the shape of a flying shuttle, and a layer of light purple clouds appeared on top of it. The Heavenly General's body swayed, and the entire primordial spirit shadow entered the imperial equipment. Buzz! The flying shuttle let out a strong roar, and the space within a few feet showed slight distortions. A huge pillar of vast chi fell into the flying shuttle from all directions. Whoosh! The flying shuttle didn't move at all, and it crashed into the void and disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, the flying shuttle that was flying forward at an extremely fast speed in the void suddenly hit an invisible enchantment. Circles of 9-colored light rippled in all directions in the void. Even the void was extremely distorted. When the flying shuttle entered the restriction, it suddenly slowed down, and an extremely long shadow appeared. The originally palm-sized flying shuttle was stretched to 1,000 feet long. The rumbling sound of the flying shuttle also became muffled and erratic at this point. Then, thousands of light spots flew out from the flying shuttle. Layers of inscriptions bloomed like an epiphyllum. Ripples appeared on the left side of the flying shuttle. The light spots scattered around the flying shuttle rushed into the depths of the sea and disappeared without a trace. There was a palace made of silver, and the surroundings were filled with light green clouds. The brilliance of the clouds was like the sky, illuminating the surroundings. The palace's vermilion door was extremely large. Above the vermilion door of the palace, there was a bright plaque with 3 inscriptions, Jasper Flower Palace. An indescribable majesty was emitted from these 3 inscriptions, covering a range of several hundred feet in front of the palace. It's the princess who doesn't allow it. Yesterday, the princess went to the school of the Emperor Star with Princess Meow Meow. Do you think I can go to the school of the Emperor Star to send a message? Alas! Hearing the school of the Emperor Star, Gu Xianyun immediately lowered his head and muttered, Princess Qingqing has always been at odds with the school of the Emperor Star. If I go to send a message, I'll be seeking death. Both of them will die. Which one do you choose? Yu Xiaojing blinked and looked at Gu Xianyun. Gu Xianyun froze and then pondered. After a while he bowed and said, Thank you for your reminder, sister. Everything will be decided after the princess comes back. Yes, that's right. Don't be too anxious. Yu Xiaojing nodded with a smile. Although I don't know what kind of task you're doing for the princess, there's no need to rush. However, since it's a task, there's a possibility that you'll screw it up. Then, I'll have to see how badly I screw it up. Imagine if I made any mistakes and how the princess will punish me. Actually, the princess empathizes with us the most. She won't be too harsh on us. Gu Xianyun smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, Actually, I'm not sure either. However, perhaps it's not as serious as I think. Elder sister, if the princess comes back, can you take a look at her mood before you inform this little sister? You're making things difficult for me. Yu Xiaojing smiled even more bitterly. When has the princess ever come back with a smile from the school of the Emperor Star? Sister, you're just making things difficult for me. My life is at stake. Gu Xianyun begged. Sister, you must think for me. Sister Xianyun, go ahead. I'll remember this. Yu Xiaojing smiled. Everything will be fine after the heaven selection. Yes, thank you, sister. Gu Xianyun squeezed out a smile. After Yu Xiaojing entered the small door, he walked out of the small courtyard with displeasure on his face. Then, he flew to the pavilion from before and waited there quietly. After a while, Gu Xianyun flew up from the ground again. With a cold smile on his face he muttered, No, I can't just wait here like this. That thing has come back. Although it's early, it's not a big mistake. However, I'm afraid only Kong Hongwu knows what happened at Yaotai Mountain. If I don't get to the bottom of this, when the princess asks, how can I answer? As he spoke, Gu Xianyun flew into a corridor and disappeared. Poor Xiao Hua didn't know that the trouble this time actually involved the princess of the Immortal Palace. He followed Fairy Jing onto the Rainbow Bridge. Naturally, Fairy Jing took him and flew behind Zhai Xingzi. Although Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong Shongren were behind them, they just looked at each other and didn't say anything. After they flew across the Rainbow Bridge and rushed into the huge black hole. Just like when they entered Yaotai Mountain, light and shadow flashed. As if they had passed through many small worlds, a vast mountain range appeared in front of Xiao Hua and the others. Woo woo! At this moment, the north wind was blowing above the mountain range. Large snowflakes fell from the sky. Before they could land, they were torn to pieces by the wind. A gust of cold air rushed into Xiao Hua's mouth and nose. Xiao Hua took a deep breath. It was really a refreshing feeling. I'm Zhai Xingzi. I didn't ask for your Dharma name. Zhai Xingzi flew in front. After he left Yaotai Mountain, he scanned with his divine sense and a smile appeared on his face. He looked at Xiao Hua holding hands with Fairy Jing and said with a smile, I really envy your intimacy with your lover. The blush on Fairy Jing's face increased. She pulled back her hand and didn't dare to take it back. She opened her mouth to say something but didn't know how to refute. She simply lowered her head and didn't say anything. Xiao Hua smiled and cupped his hands, saying, I'm Xiao Hua. My Dharma name is Taoist Xiao. Xiao Hua. Zhai Xingzi frowned. A cold smile immediately appeared on his face. So you're Xiao Hua. Hee hee, not bad, not bad. Zhai Xingzi said not bad but his face was full of disdain. How is that not bad? What's the meaning of this, Taoist? Xiao Hua was somewhat bewildered. Just as he was about to speak, Zhai Xingzi flung his sleeve and said coldly, I originally thought you were a forthright person. Who knew? Your heart was actually dirty. Alas, you can't judge a book by its cover. After saying that, he urged his figure and flew to the other side of the foothills. Is this guy sick? Xiao Hua was completely at a loss and couldn't help but say in a low voice. Fairy Jing on the side chuckled and said, Previously on Yaotai Mountain, Zhai Xingzi was together with Taoist Huada. He must have heard Taoist Huada's ugly words. TCH. I was wondering. Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization. He tilted his head and looked at the rippling water-like air behind him. The cultivators flew out one by one. He smiled and said, Fairy Jing, do you think I should kill Taoist Huada right now? If Taoist Huada hadn't been mentioned, Fairy Jing wouldn't have thought about it. However, when she looked back, she found that except for her and Xiao Hua who followed closely behind Zhai Xingzi, the other cultivators didn't fly out of the Yaotai meeting in the same order as on the Rainbow Bridge. Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong Shangren weren't behind them at all. This is bad. Fairy Jing hurriedly urged her magic power to fly away. While flying, she scolded, You still want to find trouble. It's good enough that Taoist Huada didn't find trouble with us. Us. Xiao Hua touched his nose and smiled bitterly. However, after thinking for a moment, he still pretended that he had lost his cultivation. Fortunately, Fairy Jing didn't have to worry for long. A moment later, several powerful divine senses swept over. Two of them were Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong Shangren. The two turned into rainbows and rushed over from afar. The other divine senses were somewhat resentfully retracted. Brother Xiao. Sun Kong Shangren shouted without flying close. You're really good. It seems that Fairy Jing was still beside this old man just a moment ago. In just a few breaths of time you actually... Senior Sun Kong. Fairy Jing's face was very red. She hurriedly flew over with Xiao Hua and shouted, Senior, quickly come and take a look. Xiao Hua At this point, Fairy Jing changed to transmitting her voice. Zhang Daoran was naturally more attentive than Sun Kong Shangren. When he saw that Xiao Hua wasn't flying and was being carried by Fairy Jing, he already felt something was wrong. Without waiting for Fairy Jing to transmit her voice, he hurriedly flew over to Xiao Hua and raised his hand to check Xiao Hua's injuries. However, at this moment, Zhang Daoran stopped and looked at Xiao Hua with a stunned expression. At this moment, Xiao Hua's lips were slightly moving as if he was explaining something. Xiao Hua didn't say much and only said a few words. Zhang Daoran slightly frowned. He looked at Fairy Jing and then at Sun Kong Shangren. His expression was very serious as he said, Brother Sun Kong, do you have any medicinal pills? Chapter 3666. When Sun Kong heard this, he shook his head slightly and said with a bitter smile, Brother Daoran, you really think too highly of me. My Dantian is destroyed, and my nascent soul. I'm afraid it will also be greatly damaged. Not to mention completely obliterated, even if I lose an arm or a leg, to completely recover, not only will I need to take a nascent soul pill, but I also need to cultivate for hundreds of years to fully recover. That nascent soul pill is a legendary immortal pill. I've only heard of it and never seen it, but... At this point, Sun Kong hesitated and said in a low voice, I know a secret recipe to use the nascent soul of a cultivator who just became a nascent soul. Hee. Xiao Hua laughed and hurriedly waved his hand. He gave Zhang Daoran a look and then said to Sun Kong, No need to trouble Brother Sun Kong, I have a medicinal pill here. Although it's not as good as the nascent soul pill that fellow Taoist mentioned, it has an excellent effect on rebuilding the Dantian. I just haven't had a chance to take it. After a while, I'll find a place to take it. Although it can't be completely recovered in a short time, it's possible to use magic power and divine sense. Brother Xiao, what medicinal pill is this? Zhang Daoran was transmitting his voice to Sun Kong. Before Zhang Daoran could explain clearly, Sun Kong heard Xiao Hua showing off and hurriedly spoke. As soon as he opened his mouth, he was scolded by Zhang Daoran. Sun Kong's face also showed embarrassment. After all, both of them felt that Xiao Hua was making an excuse. Unexpectedly, Xiao Hua raised his hand and took out a jade bottle from his bosom. He said with a smile, This pill is called the Heaven Mending Pill. Not only can it be used to repair the Dantian, but it can also repair meridians. Damn, the name is really arrogant. Sun Kong said with a smile, If it can repair nascent souls, that's even better. Xiao Hua shrugged his shoulders and took another Heaven Mend pill. He replied, This medicinal pill has been used by little brother before on gold core and foundation building disciples whose cultivations were crippled. I still don't know what kind of effect it has on nascent souls. Really? Not to mention Sun Kong, Even Zhang Daoran asked with some surprise. Xiao Hua smiled and took out a few more jade bottles and handed them over. He said, "I'll give these two brothers some first. Thank you for your care on Yaotai Mountain." Hee hee. Zhang Daoran and Master Sun Kong laughed and caught it. They looked at each other, and there seemed to be something else in their eyes. Xiao Hua, if you've consumed the medicinal pill, you should first find an abode to rest in. Once your injuries are slightly better, I'll ask the two seniors to send you back to Black Cloud Ridge. Fairy Jing had been holding Xiao Hua back. Her previous anxiousness was a temporary measure, but now that there were two male cultivators, Fairy Jing could no longer act as a temporary measure. Now that Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong already knew that Xiao Hua's injuries were fake, they naturally wouldn't expose it. They hurriedly waved their hands and said, "We still have matters to attend to. I'm afraid we can't send Xiao Hua back to Black Cloud Ridge. Fairy Jing, if you don't have any special matters, why don't you send Xiao Hua back? You're a nascent soul cultivator, so you should be able to protect Xiao Hua." Fairy Jing didn't expect the two of them to push the blame away, so she hesitated. Zhang Daoran thought a lot. He smiled and said, "Now that we have come out of the Yaotai assembly, we have escaped from the tiger's den, there is no need to be so anxious. As a matter of fact, the fellow Taoists who trained with us on the Yaotai Mountain have all gathered here. Let's first discuss how to distribute the things we obtained on the Yaotai Mountain. Brother Xiao also happens to be recuperating from his injuries. It won't be too late for Fairy Jing to make a decision when it's time to leave." "All right." Fairy Jing nodded slightly. She looked to the left and pointed to a mountain peak in the distance, saying, "How about over there? Junior will take Xiao Hua there first." Sun Kong looked up. Although there was a lot of snow on the mountain peak, there was a large flat open space suitable for cultivators to rest. He nodded and said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, Fairy Jing." Fairy Jing flew away with Xiao Hua. Sun Kong took out the jade bottle, looked at it for a moment, and whispered a few words to Zhang Daoran. Soon after, over 100 cultivators flew over from all directions. They were the Taoist cultivators who had gone through life and death with them at the Yaotai Assembly a year ago. Even if Kong Hongwu was still alive, he probably couldn't believe that the Yaotai Assembly he had painstakingly created to provoke Taoist cultivators to kill each other and weaken the power of Taoist cultivators had now become an opportunity for Taoist cultivators to get closer and cultivate feelings. Although it hadn't happened before, from today onwards, more and more cultivators had tasted the sweetness and began to form groups at the Yaotai Assembly. When these cultivators saw Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong, they were still as respectful as they were at the Yaotai Assembly. After greeting them, they stood quietly on the left in an extremely orderly manner. However, while many cultivators were standing, they also looked into the distance as if they were checking Xiao Hua's movements. After less than an hour, Zhang Daoran looked around and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, thank you for trusting me and fellow Taoist Sun Kong, and handing over all our gains in the Yaotai meeting. We can't let you down. Now, please come with us to discuss. We'll find a time and place, and we'll distribute our gains to you." "Okay." The cultivators all smiled and said, "Seniors, you can come up with a plan. We believe in you." "That's not right." Sun Kong looked at the nearly 300 cultivators and said in confusion, "How come this old man doesn't remember there being so many people?" "Haha." Zhang Daoran flew up and said with a laugh, "Those who can come are naturally Taoist cultivators. This old man won't mind. Brother Sun Kong, you don't have to worry about it." "Okay." Sun Kong glanced at the crowd and said indifferently, "If you're sincere, this old man won't say anything. If you're half-hearted, don't blame this old man for being ruthless." After saying that, Sun Kong followed Zhang Daoran and flew to the mountain peak. Everyone was magnanimous and didn't care about Sun Kong's words. They followed the two to the mountain peak. Naturally, Xiao Hua wouldn't immediately meditate. Instead, he stood there with a smile on his face. All the cultivators flew in front of him, then landed and bowed. Every one of them had a respectful expression on their faces. Xiao Hua was very humble. After returning everyone's greetings, he said with a smile, "This Xiao has never been good at socializing. Previously, after leaving Yaotai Mountain, I wanted to leave first. However, Brother Dao Ran and Brother Sun Kong stopped this Xiao, saying that the idea of the trade fair was this Xiao's idea and that this Xiao must appear. This Xiao thought for a moment and didn't dare to agree. After all, this Xiao has his own matters to attend to. Moreover, these two brothers' characters and moral integrity are trustworthy. They definitely won't disappoint you. If this Xiao didn't go, it would be unnecessary. Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong glanced at each other and smiled bitterly. The two of them naturally wanted to invite Xiao Hua to participate in the trade fair. However, they didn't expect that Xiao Hua would refuse before they even opened their mouths. Apart from what Xiao Hua said earlier, there must be some other misgivings. Brother Xiao, you're wrong, Sun Kong hurriedly said. Since this idea was yours, you have to take responsibility until the end. Even if you don't participate, you have to at least know how the trade is done, the time and place of the trade, and even the results of the trade, right? That's right. We hope that Taoist Master Xiao can also participate if you have the time. The cultivators looked at Xiao Hua fervently. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and nodded. This Xiao has some injuries and needs to heal first. How about you two discuss it with your fellow Taoists first and inform this Xiao when there's a result? Good. Exalted Master Sun Kong signaled Zhang Daoran with his eyes again, and he led the group of cultivators to discuss the matters of the trade. Zhang Daoran brought Xiao Hua and Fairy Jing to a secluded place. Zhang Daoran didn't avoid Fairy Jing and said with a smile, Brother Xiao, do you know how to refine pills? I do. Xiao Hua nodded. Zhang Daoran's face revealed a happy expression and probed, Was the heaven-mending pill refined by Brother Xiao? Yes. Xiao Hua said concisely, putting Zhang Daoran's heart at ease. Good. Zhang Daoran said 3 times in a row and rubbed his hands. There are many fellow Taoists in the hidden immortal continent who can refine pills. Even this old man can only refine ordinary pills. As far as this old man knows, there isn't a single cultivator who can refine an immortal pill like the heaven-mending pill. Xiao Hua smiled. He naturally understood what Zhang Daoran said. The cultivators of the hidden immortal continent had to rely on themselves to cultivate, whether it was refining pills or refining tools. However, because of limited energy, limited spiritual herbs, and limited materials, those who could truly become masters were naturally very few. Moreover, once they cultivated to foundation establishment, they had to prepare spiritual herbs for the dry separation pill and familiarize themselves with the refining method. Once they cultivated to Jindan, they had to worry about the nascent pregnancy pill. How could they be distracted by other pills? Even if there were some rogue cultivators who didn't establish a country and wanted to make a living by refining pills and refining tools, it would be impossible for them to cultivate to the point of perfection by themselves, right? Brother Daoran, if you have any errands, just say the word. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Zhang Daoran waved his hand. Let's talk about it in detail later. It's not appropriate to say it now. Good. If Brother Daoran has something to do, this Xiao will definitely do his best. Xiao Hua agreed. Moreover, after thinking for a moment, he waved his hand and took out a small Chenkuan pouch. He handed it to Zhang Daoran and said, The pills inside are for Brother Daoran and Brother Sun Kong. You can distribute them as you see fit. Zhang Daoran took the small Chenkuan pouch and scanned it with his divine sense. He opened his mouth slightly and his face was full of surprise. Xiao Hua was already used to Zhang Daoran's surprise. Without waiting for Zhang Daoran to speak, he handed over a rejuvenation pill and a heaven-mending pill to Fairy Jing. He said, Fairy Jing, this Xiao has a few pills for female cultivators. They aren't considered precious. Please kindly accept them. Fairy Jing pursed her lips and smiled. Generally speaking, women didn't care whether the things given by others were precious or not. What they cared about was whether others gave them things. Xiao Hua didn't say what kind of pills he gave Fairy Jing. Fairy Jing's heart was immediately filled with sweetness. Fairy Jing reached out to take them and carefully put them away in the Chenkuan pouch. She lowered her head and said, Many thanks, fellow Taoist Xiao. No need to thank me, no need to thank me. Xiao Hua blinked his eyes. Just take it as my thanks for escorting Fairy Jing. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.